Let's get it. Hit your there you go.
Hit my mark. Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Sal Kalani. This is Reginald Steele.
And welcome to Spitballing.
There you go. Yours was like a wave.
Yeah.
Splishing,
And welcome.
splashing out of the
Welcome.
bowl.
Yeah.
So I think so. It was my turn. I got to try and book a guest, and I booked a friend of ours, Steve Maison, who's going to be on the show. He great comic. He's been on Letterman, did a movie called Dying to Do Letterman that did really well on the festival circuit. And now he's going to be calling us from a port from this cruise ship that he is performing on this week. I have no idea where.
Port.
How. Yeah.
He's currently going through immigration, right?
Yeah,
now.
he just went through immigration. He's been very I will give this, I mean, he's been very keeping me up to date every so often. So this morning, yeah, he's like he had to go through immigration. He just finished that. Now he's going through customs and should be arriving in like 15 or so.
Yeah. Sal and I were just discussing, we're curious to hear how it feels to ride on a floating coronavirus petri dish.
Yeah. And I'm curious to like the crowds because
I mean, I've heard about the crowds.
Middle America kind of vanilla.
I've heard about the crowds because the comics who work on the cruise ships, depending on what cruise ship it is, they have to be exceptionally, I mean, squeaky clean, right? Like,
really?
Yeah. Like that's one of the tough parts about getting on the cruise ships is that they have like every show basically has to be like an all ages show.
So every show has kids in it?
No, it's not that it has kids in it, but some shows, you have to treat it like they do. But then there's also, I will admit, I've heard too that they have like the late show, like the adult show. They may have one of those.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Where it's like,
they should definitely have one of those.
Yeah. So
I will say he did my show a couple of weeks ago, Diablo Comedy, every other Thursday, Sunset Boulevard.
Every other? I thought it was every Thursday.
No, man, I ain't keeping up with that. Well, no, it used to be music was doing the other Thursdays, but music kind of isn't doing it anymore. So maybe I could bump it up, but I'm gonna wait till the new year if I do anything like that. I'm in a rush.
Yeah, and plus, I mean,
that shit gets saturated. It's just a pain in the ass booking people, man.
Yeah. Comics can be a little flighty at times,
man.
Folks.
The amount of I've already had people flake, and I've already had multiple times, and then I've forgotten people that I booked and shit. It's just too much. People coming at you, and down here, man, like people, and I've had to turn people down. Like, yo, man, it's booked that day. Like, you got to ask way out in advance, man, because people will be hitting you up, and there's a lot. It fills up quick.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's a good sign of a good show. If people,
it's also Los Angeles. Los Angeles is just a hungry motherfucking beast, dude.
Everyone's looking for stage time.
Anytime, anywhere, and they're hustlers. Everybody's messaging you all the time.
Wow. And, so now you know what it feels like on the other end.
Right. Yeah. And I've been fortunate because I've been doing it long enough that I know enough people who just give me recommendations. I'm just like, yo, give me some names, and then they just drop me some names, and I go, yo, you want to do the show?
Sight unseen. You don't know what their skill level is.
They're usually, you can see everyone's got, I mean, almost every week they got somebody with a national credit though. There's multiple people writing. I got someone who wrote for Jim Jeffries' show tonight, Lisa Curry. I got Alex Cole's going to do the show. He just he did Conan. So you got like but people will, there's only so much. In LA, there's so many comics and only so much stage time, and
right.
But anyway, Maison was on a couple weeks ago, and he was tight, dude. He was good. He was tight. You could tell he's been working. And
well, the guy's a professional. He's a professional.
Yeah, he was straight up pro, and people liked him. And it was good seeing him.
Let me ask you this: when he finished his set, was there a little part of you that was like, why are you doing this show?
No, not at all. There's tons. Well, he probably has a favor to me. I asked him, but like, because everybody likes the experience, and everyone gets some good food, Everyone get
Okay.
the comics get hooked up, and
Comics about
they
the
get they all love it. It's funny because comics are so used to getting nothing ever, which is
right.
always the way. And then they're like, "Oh, so wait, you get burrito? You got a burrito and a margarita? Oh, hell yeah!"
Oh man, we are revealing all the secrets about the world of
Secret,
comedians.
just feed them.
Yeah, all you need is a burrito and a
Well, down
margarita.
here they charge you $5 for stage time for open mics and shit. You know what I mean?
Hey, you got to be out your mind. There's no way. There's no way I'm paying to
I've
do
done
a
it.
set.
I've paid because
Yo, damn that.
and
Hey
it's
man,
like, yeah, it's
dude,
such a
get a
different
speaker, get
game.
an amplifier, a speaker, or whatever you need, and a microphone, and find a corner that's open or a park and put
Well,
up some
I'm definitely
chairs.
glad I run my own shit, and it's just like, yeah, and it'd be good just to do the road again. Then you could work stuff because you're right. Because no matter what, though, they're never fun open mic. I mean, they're fun at times when you're working stuff out. They're good when you're working stuff out, but when
Five
yeah,
dollars to perform? I can't.
sometimes, yeah, man, it's whack. And then you like, or you pay 10 and you get 7 minutes and stuff.
Oh my god, dude, this is for everyone listening. I'm just gonna tell you right now that is absolutely horrible. The idea to pay to perform. It's like I'm bringing my services. It's already bad enough that you're doing it for free. That we do it for free, right?
Right.
Right. We're
There's
doing it
other
for free.
places they're like, yo, you want stage time? Cool. You have to bring 5 people, 5 paying guests, or you give them tickets, but they all got to buy, they'll buy food and drink. It's all
Yo,
a
man.
game, dude.
Yeah, I'm
It
like,
doesn't,
damn that.
yeah, it takes,
How,
yeah.
how about I bring 5 funny jokes, motherfucker? How about I do that? Okay.
Not enough in Los Angeles, man. There's a lot of people with 5 funny jokes.
Well, that's good. Then that should bring in the crowd, right?
It should, but it doesn't because there's a million other things to do here.
So now I got to bring my 5 friends to a show. As soon as my set is over, they all get up and walk out.
You don't get paid. You're not getting paid for that. It's yeah dude.
Yeah, damn.
But anyway, I was asking Reggie if he could workshop a joke for me because I have this joke that I think's been doing all right.
All right, let's do it. Let's do it. We're letting people in. This is what happens, folks.
Yeah, it hasn't hit, and so all right, it's gonna be hard to deliver a fucking joke in the podcast.
Hey man, take a moment, just like acting. Take that moment, get centered, breathe,
right,
act like you're on stage.
I've only done it a few times, so I got to remember it. Okay, here we go. All right, so basically, like a lot of times when like an actor blows up and gets kind of famous, they start like doing stand-up. So they're touring and doing stand-up. And I don't understand that. Like if you get famous at one thing, why would you start touring on another thing? Like that's if I blew up and got like a Netflix comedy special, and then I decide, oh, it's time to start playing the piccolo. And I start hitting the tour and hitting the road, and people are like, oh man, Sal, you going on tour? You got new jokes? Nah, man, new stanzas. And then people are yelling at me like, boo, you're taking real stage time from real piccolo players.
That's funny.
That's
funny.
it, dude. But
that's it. That's funny enough.
Yeah, I don't know if the instrument hits enough. Should I change it to tuba?
Well, I was gonna say, for one, no one knows what a friggin' piccolo sounds like. So you can make whatever sound you want to. You could be like,
right, where the sound, yeah, no, that part. Yeah, right. No, and
I think that would be funny. If you said I played the piccolo and then you went out and did the complete different instrument. It's like, I'm a piccolo player, and you got there, like, the fuck, right?
That's pretty funny.
That's a trombone, right? Did I mistake a piccolo for a trombone or a trombone for a piccolo?
Is there funnier instruments I should be doing? Should I switch it to a tuba or a trombone? Trombone is pretty funny.
I think the funny thing is that the word piccolo is funny.
I love that word. I thought the word was funny. And then with the alliteration, I'm a sucker for alliterations. That piccolo player.
A piccolo player. Yeah, exactly. Piccolo is funny. It's got harsh consonants. It's always going to hit.
Right. I'll give it another go.
Only problem is this, though. The issue is that we understand why actors do that, because it's just another way of creating a stream of revenue, right? People see them in one thing, and so it's a natural transition to go like, and here I am, the guy that you see every Thursday. Now I'm talking about stuff, and come pay to see me talk. So it's just another stream of revenue. Being a comedian who has a special, there's no reason why you would go play the piccolo, because that's not going to necessarily create another stream of income, because no one's excited.
It will.
But no one knows.
The point is, though, that's not my form. That's not my art. I shouldn't.
Yeah, no, I get that part, but I'm just saying
molesting another art form.
Molesting. That's a great word. You're molesting comedy coming from your acting background.
Yeah.
I don't
You
know,
hear
man. I
that,
say
Mahershala? You stick to the acting.
I'll be sure to tell him.
He'll start doing the stand-up, man. Well, he just singing. He just singing.
He can rap. He can the dude
He
can
can
flow,
rap.
and he's producing music right now too. So he's
There's just a
producing and
lot
he can
of,
still flow.
I mean,
He's
it's
just
just you
multi-talented,
see it
but
down here too, like a lot of like up and coming actors just trying to get more exposure by doing
yeah,
comedy. And
hey
it's like,
man,
yo, we
everyone's
know
trying to
like
get
comics
paid.
though who are like comics. First and foremost, you just gotta get on the stage and spit some jokes and whatever. I mean, I dabbled in the acting world. People could probably say it about me, like, you're no actor, dude. Get off this set.
No, believe me, there are tons of people who can't act for shit. They just
There's
look
a lot of
good.
comedians who could act, a lot of great comedians.
Yeah,
you know.
absolutely, absolutely. All right, so let's think about this joke real quick. So the setup, I don't know if the setup needs to be as long as that. I think you can get straight to it, right? I think you can actually I think you can get straight to it.
I thought I did.
Well, it was a little long. So I think you could go straight into one of the issues I have, or one of my problems, or one thing that frustrates me or makes me angry.
See, I
Or
don't even
whatever
need
it
that.
is.
That intro is too much. Just cut that intro off. Just get into it.
Okay, all right. So
like I hate
no,
when
but we have to
stand-up.
cover the fact that you feel a certain way though.
Yeah,
Because that's the
I
whole
hate
point.
when actors start doing stand-up.
Okay, there you go. I hate when actors
Who once
start
they blow up.
I don't even know if they got to blow up. Okay, all right.
But that's the point when people go on tour.
I hate that when actors. Oh, here it is. I hate that when actors blow up, they start doing stand-up. Right? That's it. I hate when actors blow up, they start doing stand-up.
Then I give the comparison. They're like, why would you get famous at one thing? You start doing another. Such as if I blew up doing a stand-up special, that I would just go out and be like, now here's the thing. Do I act it out or do I just say it? Like when I start, it's always funnier when I act it out. So if I go and be like, and it's like if I got my own Netflix special, like, all right, now I could start playing the piccolo. That's a funny sentence.
I think it's funny. Well, how about my Netflix? You got to blow up though first, right? So my Netflix special. Right. So what happened? So what am I gonna do when my Netflix special blows up? Right, my Netflix special.
I got to say comedy Netflix special because now if I'm saying other art form, I could say anything.
Okay, so when my comedy Netflix special blows up, now because I'm all famous, am I going to go on the road as a piccolo player? Right?
See, you described it, and I kind of like if I say it. If I go, all right, now I can start. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So now, all right, okay, I can dig that.
It's always more fun that way. I feel like even last week when you did something that was pretty funny, and it kind of sucked because our audio, our Wi-Fi was a little bad, but now I got it fixed. Okay. But you were like, you talked about someone came back from the dead, and then you acted them out like, oh, it's real out there. That was funny as hell. But you became the person, you acted out. So when people hear you quote it, yeah,
that's it right there. Here's the person dead for 3 years and just
yeah.
Yo, it's crazy on the other side, man.
Like Jon Snow.
Stay alive as long as you can. Right. So all right, man. I say keep traveling. I say keep feeling with it. But the funny thing to me about the whole thing is that the fact that you're saying my comedy Netflix special blew up. Now I can go on the road and be a piccolo player, which means that you have like basically deep down inside you, there's a little part of you that's like, I'm only doing comedy so I can play the piccolo.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's really what it is.
I kind of like it's funny. I have done the last line, and I even fucked it up in this delivery because I said real piccolo player, real stage time. But I should just say stage time, real piccolo player. But the comics always like that last line where I have someone go, boo, you're taking stage time away from real piccolo players.
I still like the idea that it's like, what am I gonna do? Get on stage with my piccolo and be like,
oh yeah, that's funny. I'll give that a go then. Okay, I'll do it. I'll go up there and then you can just like, obviously I don't know even what a piccolo.
You don't know what it is, and then have someone say like, hey man, you're taking stage time from real piccolo players, right?
Yeah, there you go. We'll just go on stage and start playing it like just a piccolo,
right? Or right? People are like, get off stage, boo!
Just start playing the piccolo.
Like this guy has no
that
idea.
you still use the fingers on the sax, same with the piccolo. So I like the tuba better. Or the
Okay, yeah.
trombone. Trombone's a good one. That's such
So
a weird instrument where you can
it
hurt
is.
somebody.
It is. That was fun, man. We should do more of those. I love the idea of workshopping a joke because that shit is fun.
Oh, okay, wait. I got a thumbs up from Maison. I think that was earlier.
Okay.
Okay.
I want to share this with you real quick. I'll share this with everyone because we talked about including the crowd,
yeah.
right? So this morning at 8:30 a.m. I had a doctor's appointment with
Again?
yeah, this is it's a part of my follow-up for my physical. Also, by the way, just want to let everyone out there know, my physical results came back and who has 2 thumbs and is doing well? This guy. Right, my blood work came back. The doctor told me that my blood work.
Funny? I'm going to get my blood work in 2 weeks.
Nice.
Did you have to? You had to fast like an 12 hours before?
Yeah, I did. I knew I was gonna have to, so I did anyway.
What time was your appointment when you fasted?
My appointment was at 9:30.
Yeah,
because it's 9:30.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
they wanted mine at 9. I was like, yeah, keep it. At first they said 11. I'm like, wait, I can't eat all morning. No, I love breakfast. We gotta.
That's funny.
Move that up.
That's funny. So my my blood work came back, and from what the doctor told me, I had a phone conversation with him. He said that my blood work looked like the blood of someone in their 20s. He's like, so whatever you're doing, keep up the good work. I was like, thanks, doc. I appreciate that. So, but because I'm at this age now, I'm getting close to that time, and I don't know one half of my family history. He was like, well, let's just have your prostate checked out, because lately for me, and I'll just share this with everyone, lately it's kind of turned to this thing where it's like, when I gotta pee, I gotta pee. It ain't like I can get like, oh, I gotta go pee. It's like, I gotta go pee. And I'm running. It's just like, it sounds like a waterfall. Like it's so I was like, yo, let's go get this joint checked out.
You're like a toddler, doesn't know when you gotta go.
I do know when I gotta go.
You just said, oh, it's time.
It's like, sometimes it hits me like that. So he's like, all right, cool. So I went to go see a urologist this morning, and he's like, all right, well, based on your questionnaire, everything that I filled out, he's like, you're at low risk for everything, and you got what do you say, moderate to low, whatever. So he's like, but let's just do a blood test to see if there's anything out there. So I'm going to go in tomorrow and do a blood test to check my PSA and my total testosterone.
So they can't check that earlier with the other blood test?
Well, they could have, but that was just, I don't know if they tested. He said he said he could look at that blood work too. So if he looks at that and sees that it has the information there, then I may not need to go do it.
What I didn't like is my doctor said, okay, well, check your blood, and then I'll call you, let you know if it's good or bad.
Hey, dude, that's what happened with me.
Put that out there, bro.
Hey, dude, that's what he did with me. He was like, once I get the blood test results, and I'll either call you or email you. So what happened was, I didn't hear from him, but they have a whole chart system online that you can go check. And so I made the appointment to have a phone conversation with him. And then in the process of doing that and getting ready for the phone conversation, I was like, oh, let me go check this chart. I go check my chart, and it's like, he's like, I saw your blood work. Everything's great. And I was like, well, we're going to have this conversation anyway. So, and so we had a conversation. It was cool. But so, yeah, just for everyone out there. Yeah, man, I'm barring any accidents, I should be alive for a little while longer.
That pee story reminded me of, do you remember the Oakland comic Dijon?
Yeah, he passed away though, right?
He passed away back in the day.
Yeah.
But one of my first ever times on the road, I went with him, Leia, Ava, and fucking the three of us to the Pacific Northwest, right? First off, we drove to a gig the first night in Vancouver, Washington.
Well, hold up, let's just go ahead and clarify this. You're driving from the San Francisco Bay to Vancouver, Washington. So you're driving all the way through the rest of California, to Portland, through Oregon, right?
To Portland.
Yeah.
Past Portland, over the river to Vancouver.
To Washington.
And,
so
yeah. And we got lost on the way.
Of course.
It was like longest.
That was back when you had to use MapQuest and print out the map.
You're right. We didn't have no GPS. We had you're right. We got to look at goddamn signs. Oh, it's so much easier now.
Yeah, it's so much easier. There was no Garmin navigator.
And so I remember it took like 16
GPS.
hours. Like we went on a wrong highway, started heading towards the coast or something, and had to go back. Anyway,
This is the importance. This is why it's important to learn how to read.
and we had a show that night.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
So I mean, I wasn't driving. I put my faith in the wrong people. So we get there, right? And it took forever, dude. It was like we were late. We got there like 9:30 p.m. Show started at 8 or something. It's in this bar. It's in this bar, dude. And it's like it was like half and half, white, black, but it was definitely a little rougher around the edges. Vancouver, Washington, bro, is outside of Portland, and it's like, you know, it's not Portland. It's
how is Vancouver, Washington outside of Portland? Portland.
It's
in Washington, right? It's in the state of
Washington. Yeah, but Portland's right on the border. So you can cross right over. So it's not that far. But dude, it's this bar. And I remember Alea went first. It was like 7 to 10. I was supposed to middle like 15.
She was super green too at that point.
Very green. We were all, and I was green still. And I did like 15 at 20. And then Dijon did like 30 or whatever. But I remember they were rough. I did my thing. They were fine. But you know, there was rowdy. And I remember it was during George Bush and was president. And Dijon, I love this about him. He would talk about, you know, politics a little too. And he was talking about the war and shit. And I remember, forget this black woman yells, she stands up and she's like, shit, this ain't social studies. Oh, dude. But then funny. I remember that night they gave me the bar guy comes up, the guy who booked us, he gave me $100 cash. And then he got whatever you want off the menu. And I had fried steak chunks because I'd never heard of that. And I tried fried steak chunks, and bro, they're pretty good. Pretty good.
Dude, there's no way I'm eating steak chunks.
I think that was the last time I've ever had fried steak.
How do you
like bites, fried steak bites? And then they
They didn't want to call them steak nuggets.
They probably did. I gave it my own little twist.
Fried. Hey, let me get the fried steak chunks. Chunks is such a funny word too. I just don't know. I don't imagine anybody eating chunks of anything, right? Like
chunky soup.
Oh, I guess chunky soup. That's true.
I will say though, that was like probably the most I ever got paid at that time, and I just remember going, money and food for 15 minutes of jokes. I'm like, this is awesome. I'm like, I'm in a place I've never been. Check it out. It was cool, man.
Oh, and then, man, that's funny.
So then the peeing though. So he had to stop and piss every time. Like he'd pull the car and he just pissed on the side of the highway, dude. Right.
Oh, wow.
And I remember, so then we did this gig. The next gig was, it's funny, these names, Moscow, Idaho, both towns that are cities in foreign countries, Vancouver, Washington, Moscow, Idaho. Only time I've ever performed in Idaho. This is like in the middle of nowhere, bro. I remember we were driving and it was pitch black.
Isn't everything in Idaho in the middle of nowhere?
Yeah, there's no lights. We weren't in Boise. We were up near the fucking top. So here's another bar, gig that Dijon booked. And but I remember,
so this was not a triple run. This was not a triple run.
No, okay. Maybe. I don't think so. I don't know. Okay. I don't know what it was.
For those who are listening, what's his name? David Triple? Dave?
Yeah, he had a bunch of gigs up north.
He had all these weird Winnemucca, Idaho, like really remote, obscure locations. And it was almost like a rite of passage for comedians when you first get started off to do triple runs. But this was not the case.
Joe Klosik had a very fun. I mean, it's probably very similar. It could have been under him. I don't know where Dijon got the gigs. I do remember Joe Klosik had a great line about that. He's like, I thought my job was to drive really far places, and then I had to do comedy before I could go to bed.
That's funny. That's really funny. Great.
So I remember he had to piss on the way to Moscow, Idaho. So we pull over the car, and then he got out the piss, and I was like, all right, I'll go piss too in this field. And I just remember, dude, it was just pitch black. I couldn't see anything. And I remember looking back and I was like, dude, if Leia just took off with the car right now, we would just be fucked.
You guys would just be living there now. That would just be it. You'd be living in some remote, dark location in Idaho. You wouldn't last long.
Man. we were out there, dude. In the
You know,
cut.
you know what's funny, man, is like I've heard you talk about Dijon a number of times, and you were very fond of him. I think he really had
Well,
a
that was the
profound
only
effect on
weekend
you.
ever spent with him. But dude, when
Okay.
you spend, 16 hours of the car one way,
No,
another 6 hours of Moscow. I remember we had to take a shit for the Moscow show. We both go and shit. There's no doors on the stall. And there's a mirror right across from us so we can see each other shitting.
Hey, dude,
Fucking disgusting.
that's funny. Hold on,
So
I got
yeah, I have a whole newfound respect for that man.
okay, okay, all right. I gotta share this with you. That's funny, by the way. The idea that they didn't have any doors and a mirror where you could see the other person.
Oh, it was terrible.
That's all type of twisted. Whoever made that up, they really fucking with people. So in high school, when I was in high school, we had 3 toilets in the men's room, and there was no doors and no stalls. So it was a toilet, and a toilet.
What? No
And
walls or no dividers?
no
You could,
dividers.
rub knees with each other.
Damn near. Damn near. And hey man, when I was in high school, we were on the same team. Yeah, we dropped deuces next to each other, bro. Hold up though. One of my favorite stories, though. One of my favorite stories. Like you're sitting there handling your business, and you can see the other 2 guys, right? This is before practice. You gotta take care of business before you go out there, right? So I remember one time, I'm not gonna say his name, but anybody that I went to high school with that played basketball will know this story because I used to tease him about this shit all the time. I'm sitting there, take care of business, and this one guy comes in. He's a quick deuce dropper, right? He's a quick shitter. Comes in, drops trowel, takes care of it. Boom, right? Like, are you done? All right, cool. And I realized this dude came in, sat down, took care of business, and got up and was like, and like pulled his shorts up and was like leaving. And as he was about to leave, I was like, I'm not exaggerating. I am not joking when I say this, right? I'm not joking when I say this. I was sitting there and he drops trowel, takes care of business, pulls up his trowel, he's walking off. I go, hey, you ain't gonna wipe your ass? I was like, yo, you gotta wipe your ass, man. Because he was a big dude, right? And as a big guy, we playing the post. I was a big guy. So, we posting up each other. That means you're putting your butt on people to try to get position, right? You're putting your butt on people. This dude, and he was like, well, I did. I was like, no, you didn't. No, you didn't. And the other dude on the other side was like, nah, man, you didn't wipe. He was like, oh, okay. And I was sitting there thinking, how many times has he forgotten to wipe in his life?
He probably never does, and you just caught him.
And I just caught him. So now that leads me to just address the fact to all the people out there, all the men out there who are listening. If you got skid marks in your drawers, man, all I'm saying is just, whatever you're doing right now, all I'm asking you to do is just wipe one more time. That's it. Just,
dude,
just
I played football against a non-wiper. And it was just recreational high school backyard football, and we all like went to this park after school and played. It was great. It was like 5-on-5, 4-on-4. And but we had this guy who lived right next to the park. He was friends of a friend. He goes, yeah, I know a guy over there, a bigger guy, but like it's still short, but had a hell of a mullet, always like a dandruffy mullet.
Dandruffy. You said a couple of things that's funny. You said a non-wiper, which is hilarious, and a dandruffy mullet. Dandruffy mullet. Oh my God, those are 2 of the worst things I've ever heard of. A non-wiper with a dandruffy mullet. Holy cow! You're dropping gems today. You're dropping gems. Dropping gems. A dandruffy mullet non-wiper.
It gets worse. The dude stunk like shit. All right, like we would play,
of course,
and we and like when we would draft, people would pick people, and you'd always kind of wanted him on your, because it was tackle, so you wanted him on your team for 2 reasons. One, he was short and big, so he was tough to break down, and he stunk. So if you didn't have to tackle him if he was on your team.
Hey, we know we're gonna win because we just give him we get Stinky the ball.
And clear out, everybody. So These guys would
Wait,
always.
so when he ran, the players just split like the Red Sea, and he had a free lane to the end zone every time.
Some guys would just, cover their nose and go in and hit.
Oh my goodness!
But I remember these guys would make fun. They're like, I think he shits his pants. And I was like, nah, dude, there's no way. I'm like, he just probably stinks. I'm like, it can't be. And they're like, yeah, man. And
he probably just stinks.
One time, and dude, you're playing tackle football, so you're not wearing jeans and a belt. You're wearing like sweatpants. Right?
Oh, so he had skid marks in his sweats on the outside.
A dude tackled him, and he's still trying to run, and his pants start coming down. And I saw it all, Reg. I saw it all, and it was disgusting. It was not cleaned up at all, and that was the source of the stench.
Oh my goodness! All right, hold up. Just for the record, that's horrible, and I apologize to all our listeners. I'm sorry we just subjected you.
I had to see it first, y'all, in the flesh. You're just hearing a story.
Yo, I will say this: I feel bad for him because that's actually a sign of mental illness.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a sign of mental illness because some people don't. People who can't smell themselves in that regard, like that's a mental thing. So I feel bad for Stinky. I feel bad for this kid, but that's somebody should have helped him, like a family member or something, right? Like
in high school, and it's tough to find the right people to help, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. Holy cow. Oh man, I'll never forget that story though. That your story and mine. I'll never forget your story. That's terrible. That's terrible. I feel bad for the dude I knew too, because he man, when he got up, this dude walking out. And
so did he have a mental illness? Oh, Maison's joining us, dude.
He did, actually. In retrospect, now that he's a little older and he's had a hard time transitioning in life, I think there was some mental illness there. So
all right, well, let's let in Steve. This is perfect timing right after our poop stories. You want to introduce him, Reg? I just admitted him.
Okay. Hey, folks, we'd like to welcome our guest today. He's a very funny guy. He was on Letterman. He's in a part of a movie about his journey to get on Letterman. Should I even tell him that he's a survivor?
Well, let him tell his story.
Okay, I'll let him tell his story.
Where's he joining us from, Reg?
He's joining us from, he's not on the cruise ship. Is he on the cruise ship now?
I don't know where he's from. He's on mute right now.
Okay,
he's him to unmute. Okay, he's unmuted right now.
Hey, we'd like to welcome to Steve Maison to Spitballing. What's up, Steve?
Hey guys, hey Reggie, Sal.
Hey,
what's up? Look at you outside. So where are you right now?
I am. I don't know if you can see it. There's a few cruise ships in the background. That's where I'm in. I'm in Long Beach, doing a turnaround on a cruise ship. Yeah.
Okay. Where are you guys coming from, and where are you headed?
So we just switched back. We're starting a new cruise. I just finished one, and so we went to the exotic ports of Ensenada, if you've ever been, and Catalina.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So not too far. All Mexican Riviera.
Nice.
I think this next one. I think we're supposed to go to Puerto Vallarta and Mazatlan on this next one. So.
Oh wow.
Okay.
So when you get into port. Can you go to Mazatlan for the day and stuff, or how's that work?
Yes. I always say that the cruise ships are like if you've always wanted to travel to foreign countries and see them and their culture for 3 to 4 hours at a time.
Nice.
That's about the level of experience you get.
Awesome. Well, hey Steve, first off, man, before we get too deep into it, I just want to say, man, it's great to see you, man. It's been a long time.
Great to see you. It's been too long.
Yeah.
Reggie. Great to see your smiling face.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Same here.
Yeah.
So,
and I luckily got to see Sal a couple weeks ago. We were talking about you. Yeah.
Yeah, he was telling me
talking about that.
Yeah, we were just talking about that. He said that he said, man, you came in and you're a true professional. I was like,
oh.
Anything I would expect nothing less.
It was tight. Your stuff was so tight. You can tell you've been working, man. And
thanks. Yeah.
Is that all cruise? Is that you've been just doing a lot of ships?
No, in fact, I just started. I just got back onto the ships this week. This was my first week back.
Wow.
So yeah, just luckily I had a couple club weeks, and then I don't know if you guys did this. I would assume you did it because you guys are doing this podcast on Zoom. I know a lot of comics didn't want to do Zoom shows, but I did them throughout the pandemic just for any kind of regularity. And I know they're not the same as a real show, but I think it kept my muscle good because I met a few people who swore it off, who were like, I'm not doing Zoom shows, it's not the same thing, which I agree it's not. But
Right.
when they came back, they were a little more rusty than I think. Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
I
I-
was.
Steve, I gotta tell you, man, I didn't do any Zoom shows.
And do
I
you feel
did.
rusty? Do you feel rusty, Reggie?
Well, my whole situation right now is I may not. I don't know. I haven't done stand up since March of 2020 at this point. So
Oh, damn.
Yeah,
Okay, so
since
you haven't
before.
jumped back in yet.
Reggie's
I
on
wish
our-
I would have
Reggie's-
said that. I don't
He's
want to jinx you.
questionable. He's like on IR.
Yeah. I'm that guy
Wait a minute.
I'm that guy
Wait a
who's standing on deck. I keep swinging the bat, but I'm like, they're like, you're up to bat. I'm like, nah, next guy, go ahead.
Next guy,
go.
you start. You
Yeah, you start. So
I did
Wow.
like 2, and then I did one corporate one, which was kind of cool.
Oh.
But it was funny. It was like a 20-minute corporate one, and it's so funny because you just put your set on the screen, and I'm like,
I
okay,
loved
what's
it.
next? Oh yeah.
That's what I loved. You could have it off to the side of the screen. No one knew there was a little cheat sheet. In fact, I got a funny story on that. The last one I did, and I was having a good run. I almost got cocky, a little too cocky about them. And the final one I did was a corporate show, and it was like 300 people. And they, but the only person who turned their screen on was the person who introduced me. And then everyone else was muted and didn't put their camera on. So I didn't know.
oh,
I didn't know if they were laughing or anything. You couldn't hear anything. I asked them a couple times, just a couple people, but no one did it. So I had my cheat sheet off to the side. I was supposed to do a half hour for them. And so I had my cheat sheet off there. It was great. And I kind of had been doing them. So I knew how long that was going to take. Like this far in is about 20 minutes, this far. So I'm just doing my set, blah, 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 and I'm like, this is awful. That's the thing I love about comedy is all the things that can go through your head. You can think about the joke you're telling, how the last joke did or didn't do well. You got to think about the next one. You're thinking about acting it out, all that stuff. And so I'm delivering this joke, and I'm like, this is awful. This is terrible. And I'm thinking in my head, well, at least you only have 5 minutes left. I kind of look at the cheat sheet, blah, 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 and then I peek up at the corner. I had only done 7 minutes. I had gone through my stuff that fast because there was no interaction or reaction. So then my head's spinning. I'm like, oh my God, you got to come up with 20 more minutes somehow. And stuff. And I had put all my, like clean corporate stuff on there. So it was.
What'd you do?
I just started like pulling jokes from like my first year of comedy. I was like, I guess I could do that. I just kept and then I started talking a lot
Oh, my goodness.
slower and everything.
Oh.
Yeah,
but
that's a good trick.
the
oh my
panic
goodness.
was like beating in my heart. I was like, 7 minutes. What the heck? It can't be
Dude.
real.
That's probably one of the best stories I ever heard. Just it's like
I think
he's like,
every comic knows, right?
oh my goodness, yeah, we've all been there. I love the idea that you think you went through 25 minutes of material and you're like, oh my, it's been 7.
Only 5 to go.
Only 5. Oh my goodness. Oh, that's great. Oh, so Steve, you got to tell us, man, because Sal and I have never done cruise ships before. So
I've never even been on a cruise ship.
Whoa, you haven't been?
I've been
Never
on one.
been.
I've
You
been
been
on.
on
one.
one?
Yeah.
Where'd you go, Reg?
When I was 17, my mom, it was a short trip, but my mom and I grew up in Birmingham. So we flew down to Fort Lauderdale, and then from Fort Lauderdale, we took a cruise ship to the Bahamas, to Newport.
Nice.
To the Bahamas. So it was a short trip, but I was on the cruise ship for a while. Once we
Yeah.
got off there, then the cruise ship went on to the other islands in the Caribbean or whatever. But
I see. So you literally took it to there and got off. That's cool.
yeah, we took it there and then
yeah.
we stayed there. So
Okay.
That's awesome. Did you like it?
you know what? Let me see. Did I like it? It was interesting. I think the biggest thing that got me was I remember I went to the very back of the boat to watch as we're pulling out of port. And I remember looking at I just watched the scene like disappear over the horizon, right? To see the city completely disappear and then look around and it's just water everywhere.
That's true.
Yeah.
There was a slight moment of panic of like, yo, we really out here right now, right?
Yeah.
Because at a point when you can see the land, there is a little part of you is like, okay, well, if something happens, I can almost
still go.
swim there. Yeah, I can swim there. But when you don't see any more land, then it's
It
like
changes.
it changes. It changes. Yeah,
You start asking questions. Where do they keep the life preservers? Up in there?
exactly.
Where's the yeah.
I think you start getting right with God too, right? You have those moments where like, Lord, please, please let me make it.
I'll be better. I'll be better.
I'm gonna go to church. I swear I'm gonna pay attention, right? So I'm gonna say my prayers. So,
I'll be nicer to everyone.
exactly. So yeah, man, what are those shows like, right? And how many do you do?
So this week they're a little different. You end up doing usually about 5 or 6 each
Okay.
cruise, and the cruises end up being anywhere from this one I just did was 4 days. The next one's going to be 5 days. There's usually another comic on board. So this week I worked with a very funny guy out of Houston, Billy D. Washington. I don't know if you guys have ever crossed paths with him.
I know
He's
Billy
super
D.
funny.
Washington. Yeah, but I do. He used to be a part
Yep.
of the there was a collection of, it was Billy D. Washington, it was BT, it was Mario something, Morris Vance, I think his name was.
Oh, yeah. I'm trying to think. They're Vance. I know. I can't think of his name.
Yeah, but they
Yeah.
they used
Like
to
a
do
group?
it was a
Like a-
group because I think he plays the piano, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Keyboard. Yeah.
Yeah, he plays the keyboard. Wow, that's cool, man. I'm glad to hear he's still
Yeah.
busy. Okay.
Yeah, he's super funny. I mean, just a great. I mean, I get a little cocky about our Bay Area roots. I always
Right.
say that the great thing about the Bay Area is it makes you a good writer. We value the joke writing there versus like just the I don't know. The shocking or whatever, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
Yeah.
it's that thing you get forced on that scene to be a good writer. And so yeah, it was fun working with Billy because he's a great writer like that. So it's fun when you work with someone else like that, where you're like, oh shoot, this is someone that values that same stuff.
And
Really
so you guys don't work together. It's like there's only one comic on the show, no opener, no feature.
No, exactly. Yeah. So some cruises do have a host, and that's always nice because it is nice to not go up to a cold
Warm up
crowd.
a little. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. But this one, yeah, you just go straight up. Like someone from the cruise introduce you, and you walk up, and then I usually do anywhere for a half hour to 45, and then there's like anywhere from a 15 to a half hour break, and then Billy comes up and does his thing, or vice versa. That kind of
okay.
thing.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there, do you prefer early or late, or does it really matter?
Well, yeah.
Is it-
So they do. Early shows are usually the clean ones, and late ones are the dirty ones. And it changes. It's funny. It's almost like a class system because I'm doing Carnival. Carnival are the party cruises. It's usually young people out
Okay.
for relatively on a budget. I mean, it's the cheaper cruises. So like
Okay.
I remember our friend Al Madrigal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before when I started comedy, he had a joke about a Carnival cruise is like floating up to a port in a giant Coors Light can. I think there's some truth to that. It is the party cruise. Then like there's Norwegian. It's a little more kind of in the middle class, and it brings a different level of people. And then there's the Princess and like Celebrity, which are older like people like at least 60 is probably the minimum or the median
okay.
age and stuff. So it depends on each one. So but even amongst on Carnival, like the earlier shows are family friendly and that kind of thing, and then you get the party people they're drunk by late night, so they want like real dirty stuff and like edgy and that kind of thing. So it's fun. It kind of pushes all your boundaries of like, okay, I got to be able to do this and this.
Wow.
Do you
Okay.
have a
Yeah.
totally completely different set for the dirty, or do you just like dirty up some of your other stuff?
So I'm doing three completely different 40-minute sets right now.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
but like Billy's got 5 different sets out here. It's crazy.
Fuck.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's nuts. So it forces you to you pull out all your stuff.
How do you
and make it
remember
work.
all that? How do you remember that?
I know it sounds hard from the outside, but it's the same way. I'll give you an example. Remember Leslie Collar? You remember Leslie Collar from the Bay Area?
I don't
Do
know.
Do you remember her? No,
No.
she was kind of my era. She looked like Lilith from Cheers. I don't know if that helps.
Okay.
Okay.
Anyways,
Okay.
She would always say she went in her first, as she was out in open mics and stuff, she would bring her notes on every time. She's like, the old Janine Garofalo did it on a special, so I'm going to bring my notes and like read them. And she was only doing like anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes at that point and couldn't
Oh, wow.
remember, So, when you start, it seems like, oh my God, I'm never going to be able to remember that 5 minutes. But then eventually you're like, oh, it's easy. I don't 5
Yeah.
minutes is
Right.
easy, and then
Right.
10 minutes becomes easy. And and again, you guys can do a half hour, 40
Oh,
minutes
right.
now,
Yeah,
headline
yeah.
without no. So it's a muscle. You just get better at it.
Wow, that's impressive though. And the reason for that is primarily because you are on the cruise ship, and I imagine every once in a while there is some overlap where people may come to this show and then decide to come back to another show, right?
100%. In fact, yeah, I think because you got to do 5 shows. And like I said, I have 3 different ones. There's a couple that get repeated. So I always make an announcement at the beginning. I'm like, hey, this is the same show I did yesterday. Just so you know, there's going to be a new show that I haven't done later tonight, but this one's a repeat. So if you want to
Wow.
walk out now, I'm not going to be mad.
Yeah, do you see people go, okay, well, that's it.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly.
We'll see
That's
you later.
exactly it. That's exactly it. Because they even say, like, again, people just don't read. Like they put on the marquee, like, this is a repeat from last night's show. There's an asterisk. They announce it at the beginning, but
Right.
people don't listen. So yeah, until I say it on stage, some
So
people are like, yeah.
Let me ask you this. So Sal, hold your thought. Let me ask you this, Steve.
Yeah.
How many people are on the cruise ship, and how many people are you averaging at a show?
So yeah, this one, I think that I'm on this week, I think the one just had 1,700 people. And I think we were probably getting, I think the comedy club seats 350. And there were a
Wow.
couple like completely packed shows. Most of them were, but there were a couple, like when you do the repeat shows and the family shows, those are the less attended ones, especially here on Carnival. So still at least 150 people, even on the smaller shows. Because comedy ends up being, I hate that, I don't want to say it too loud, but they have these giant $1 million productions where there's like a giant set in the theater. And people swing from different things, and they got 40 cast members, and they're all mic'd up in a light show and smoke and everything like that and all this stuff. And but people like the comedy the best. It's their favorite thing. It's the audience members' favorite thing. Like they spend tens of millions on this giant thing, but people love going to the comedy way more. It's always the thing they say is their favorite thing.
Comedy's real, dude.
Are you like a rock star then when you walk around?
Well, it works both ways.
Yes,
when it goes great, you're a rock star and you're walking around and people are Steve, hey, or high fiving you, and then you have a bad set. You're like, you can hear people like, there's that guy. There's that guy. He's not really a comic, is he?
Dude.
He was so funny.
Hey, Steve, I'm gonna tell you right now, I would love to see Sal on a cruise ship, just because when Sal is excited, he's really excited. So if he kills, Sal's walking around like this.
Yeah, he goes.
Right? This is Sal walking through the cruise ship, and then the next show doesn't go well. He's got to go from that to like,
I ain't leaving the cubby.
He's not leaving his room. He's not leaving his room. So
that's it.
I mean, the buffet. Well, you must love them. Like the food's got to be amazing, huh?
No, it's not that great, and that changes by each ship too. Yeah, it's they're feeding 1,700 people, so it can only get so good. Like they're trying to, they almost like a buffet kind of thing, like where it's like we got to please everyone. So there's some really good like specialty restaurants you can go to, but it's harder as the comedian to get in those because you got to wait till all the guests go first. But they let you go. So yeah,
so much for that rock star status.
Yeah, exactly. It's good. I love it. The money's pretty good. It's the nice thing as a comedian is they pay for you to fly there. They put you up in a hotel if you have to the night before. It's whereas if you're going to a comedy club, half the time you have to worry about getting there yourself, or do I get a hotel for the week? What's going on? So it's nice to have all that taken care of.
And you're able to book all that through your agent or a manager or do you do it?
I just do it by myself, but
you contact them directly.
Steve's a hustler, man.
Lots of agents and stuff.
Okay,
to handle it.
So with that being the case, then you don't have to pay a percentage, and that means that you had to submit your information, like you contacted them directly and then sent the videos and whatever the case may be.
Exactly.
So what was the whole process of getting? Yeah, what was the whole process of like getting approved? Because I know there's a whole rigorous thing as far as like getting onto cruise ships.
Yeah. So it's usually you got to send like a 30 or 45 minute tape and then convince them that that's not the only 30 or 45 minutes you have. So, cause you got to switch it up. But yeah, it's just, it's the same thing. It ends up being the same thing as a club. I mean, much easier if you can get in with one of the agencies that book it. But I've just been lucky. Getting a little reputation as a clean comedian, I think has always helped me. Even in San Francisco, I got a little notice, and it was probably too early at that time for me to do cruises, but I got a few cruises under my belt then.
Wow.
Just
okay.
being a clean comedian, because they would be like, "Oh, you'd be great for cruises," and I wasn't yet. I just wasn't, I didn't have enough time or experience and that kind of thing. But
Okay.
and the cruises have changed over the years. There used to be an idea of a cruise comedian where, in fact, I remember being at Cobb's in San Francisco, the old one, and a ship came into San Francisco, and Tom Sawyer, the booker, he put on the cruise comedian, and he just stood out. He was just much more like, I don't know, for lack of a better word, like schlocky, mid-America, just, stock jokes, that kind of thing.
Okay.
It didn't stand out, or it did stand out compared to all the other, San Francisco comics who were being a little, hot, loftier with their sets and stuff on comedy. And then about 10 years ago, it changed. There was a switch, because they started, instead of just having comedians on board, they actually put comedy clubs on the ship. So there's now a room. You don't perform in the same room that they do all the other dancing and, magic and all that kind of stuff. There's an actual, sponsored by, a lot of times, like George Lopez, I think, does, maybe Norwegian, and someone else is sponsored.
So it would be like
there's these.
So it'd be like the George Lopez Comedy Club.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
George Lopez's Punchliner. So it's kind of like putting a stamp on it, like, hey, this is going to be just like a comedy club, rather than seeing what you'd see before, whereas like, oh, we're going to give you, a cruise ship comic. We're going to give you the same comics you would see in a club here, and so it opened the doors a lot more.
That's great.
It's that experience on a ship.
Are you worried about this, about the COVID and the pandemic? And because Reggie was saying earlier, it's like a petri dish on the sea.
Yes, yeah, really, it is. Luckily, I think because they were the early petri dishes, at the beginning of COVID, they've taken the most drastic measures. So you have to be vaccinated, fully vaccinated, to get on board. And then you have to, all the crew has to be tested once a week.
Wow.
In fact, this was just 4 days, and I got tested twice this week.
Okay.
So, they're ongoing. And I'm full, again, everyone's fully vaccinated to even be there. So I think it's one of the safer places right now. And there's lots of, stewards running around spraying everything down and wiping everything and that kind of thing. So I think they
are there buffets?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
But now they've switched it. Instead of you serving yourself, there's people behind and they scoop it.
Oh, okay.
It's gone the other way. Yeah, flipped it. So
yeah. Hey, Steve, let me ask you this.
Sure.
So do you miss, if you had a choice between being on the road, being on the road and doing the cruise ships, like, is there a preference, right? Or do you miss one or the other? Or do you like one?
He does both.
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying,
do
you like one? Okay.
Yeah, I do the comedy clubs all day. I think they're just it's a little freer still. Even though, like I said, they brought that comedy club experience to the sea, there is still an attitude, because these people are on vacation. You have to cater to them a little. I'll give you an example. This week, some lady just was on her phone in the front row in my show, and I was like, how? Like, I expected this, on land, but at sea, how are you going to get a reception out here? You know what I mean? Like, so it was.
She got a satellite phone, dude. That means she's like, she's, what is it? MSI, whatever James Bond is on.
She's exactly right. She got some secret mission.
Yeah, exactly.
I shouldn't have messed with her. But anyway, so I was kind of giving her shit, lightly, like, making fun of the situation. And it was one of those things. We know as comedians, it's a distracting. You can say everyone around her, like, looking over at her, like, hey, is someone going to end this? And
right.
But their attitude, at a comedy club, there would be a bouncer on that person, out right now, blah, blah, blah. But their attitude here is like, oh, we don't want to get a complaint from a thing. And I'm like, well, everyone else is going to complain because they can't hear the show.
So you mean to tell me they're like, well, we're going to let the lady disrupt the show because
exactly. Yeah.
We don't want to upset her.
Yes. That's a little bit of the attitude, because they
that sounds like a casino gig.
A little
almost.
bit.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow, that's crazy.
So it's strange. So for that reason, I like the freedom of a comedy club. Well, when you go up on stage anywhere at a comedy club, it's like, hey, you go up there and make people laugh. We don't care what you say or do, or go have show them a good time.
That's true.
So I would take that every time.
Okay.
All right, let's learn about. I want to know more about his past, man. This guy
Speaking of which, before, because I heard you guys talking about it before I jumped out, I just want to say, did you guys talk about The Shining already?
Yes. Oh yeah, we'll talk about that with you too.
Okay,
Yeah, so
all right.
Steve
I
has
just
his own
wanted to make sure I didn't-
podcast.
Wait, hold up.
Yeah.
Should we address
Well, we
the,
could get into that. Yeah, let's talk.
which
about
one
that
should we
real
do? Should we
quick.
do The Shining real quick, or is it
Should
going
we
to take too
close
much?
on The Shining? It won't take much.
Okay, no, we'll close on The Shining. We'll close on The Shining because
Okay,
we're in
remind
the
us.
mode of comedy right now. So,
All right.
So
Steve
how far-
was he was in the Navy, dude. So I'm wondering, does that make him comfortable to do this cruise ships because he's a man of the sea already?
I am. I was in the Navy when I was a young man. For 5 years, actually, I was on a submarine, so it's nice to be on a ship that stays on board. I don't know if you guys knew that angle of it.
I didn't know you were in a sub.
I didn't know you were in a sub.
Yeah.
Holy
Well,
crap.
how long? Like, how long would you be underwater?
The longest we were ever underwater without coming up was 7 weeks.
Oh,
So,
holy fuck.
so we'd be away from port for sometimes 6 months, but we'd come up and pull into different, ports
Yeah.
and stuff like that. But
Holy cow.
What would
the
you
longest
do?
underwater 7 weeks.
It's working.
Work out. Yeah, yeah. So obviously, a lot of it is work. We did what we called where they're 18-hour days instead of a 24 cycle. So you'd work for 6 hours. You'd have 6 hours off to do you'd stand watch for 6 hours, then 6 hours of either work or recreation, and then you'd sleep for 6 hours, and then you come back. So you wouldn't be on a 24-hour schedule. And then we had the biggest thing we had is we had a VCR, and they would always send us the new movies. So that was really what you did in your downtime. That or Nintendo, the
Hold up, though.
handheld games, that kind of stuff.
I have to address this. I love the fact
Yeah.
that you're in a submarine and you said they would send us movies. So I imagine like another little sub would come up and be like, hey guys. There's like a little tube that you connect. They pump out the water, and then they like, here's your boom, they just send over the movies, right?
Like at the bank.
Exactly. It's like the mail sub just showed up.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, that's crazy, man.
No, yeah. So you're right. As I explained it, that makes it how it's set. But yes, that was actually a joke about like, hey, can we pick up there'd like be a buoy out in the middle and we pick up mail? But no, we would only get it in port. In port, we would get out stuff, and then so for 7 weeks you could only go with those movies we had seen before. So the greatest movie, and I know we're going to talk movies in a couple minutes, but the greatest movie on the ship was there were movies that just played because it was 120 men. So it was there's just movies that played well on a submarine was 121. Highlander was the most played movie.
Really?
on the submarine. Yeah, I don't know why.
funny.
I don't know what played into it, but that was run over and over.
Highlander. Okay.
Highlander.
Steve,
Yeah.
So let me ask you this, Steve. Where did you grow up, and when did you know that you wanted to be a comedian? Like, and when did the funny start for you? You know what I mean? Like, when did you recognize, like, oh, I'm kind of good at this?
I'll say this. I think I'm the least funny person in my family. My mom and dad were both really funny. My dad was kind of that, Polish, dad humor, silly, loved, like Pratfalls, Monty Python, silly stuff like that. My mom's kind of sarcastic. So they were both super funny. And then my brother and sister are both like 6 years older than me. I was kind of the mistake child that they weren't expecting anymore. So I think growing up, like they were done with kids, you know what I mean, by my time. So no one was really paying that much attention to me. So I noticed like the value of humor in my family. Like that's how you got attention. Like whoever was being funny, like everyone was so funny in front of me. So I was like, all right, I gotta start doing what they're doing. You know what I mean? And and when bad things happen, like my dad was a big drinker. So sometimes there was some like, alcoholic stuff. I mean, no one got beat or anything like that. I'm just saying but we would, instead of like being sad about it, we would joke about it and we would laugh about it. You know what I mean? To bury the pain and push it down. And, but so humor was always valued. And then we got cable when I was 11 or 12. And I was like, are we rich? We got cable? Like it was such a big deal then, like to get cable. And the first night I remember we turned on HBO and there was a Rich Little Christmas special was the first thing we watched. And then my mom went to bed and I acted like I went to bed and I stayed out. And there was a Richard Pryor live in concert.
Oh, that's the best one.
After the greatest thing ever, right?
Yeah.
I was totally shouldn't have been watching it, but I fell in love with it. And I had seen, I guess, comedians probably like, on the Tonight Show or something doing 5 minutes, but it never hit me that you could you could do this as a living, that there would be a crowd that would come and see you at this,
Yeah.
that was in Long Beach. That was at the Long Beach Civic Center, I
Yeah.
think here.
Wow.
So that's when it finally hit me. Like, I was like, oh, and he was talking about this terrible stuff with his family, and making light of it, and finding some humor in all this tragedy. And so I was like, oh man, I want to do it. So that's when I got the bug of like, I want to do this. But yeah, it took, obviously I was 12, and I didn't get on stage until I was 29. So it took a long time to get the
29.
cojones.
29.
The cojones. Yeah.
Wow. Well, you had,
I had the Navy for 5.5 years.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
college, and then
he was underwater
so
for 5 years. So
that's
what
true,
did you-
right? I was hidden. Yeah.
A little Aquaman here. What?
oh, real quick.
Let me bounce this off you. There was a guy that looked like Aquaman. Let me bounce a joke off you. See if you guys think of this is funny.
we
Oh,
just
this
did
is great.
earlier.
All
right.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Because I want to break it out this week, and I don't know. You know how it is. You're like I'm nervous now because I'm like, what if this is a terrible joke?
All right, let's
First
do
of
it.
all, I've only seen Aquaman once, and I remember it not being one of the better
I agree.
superhero movies. Right? He's from Atlantis, right? Like,
Right.
is that his home?
Yes,
I
his
don't wanna say
origins.
the
He's
wrong
half
thing.
he's half Atlantis and then half human.
Yeah, he was
Right.
born
Okay.
in Atlantis, but grew up on Earth or on the
Okay.
land.
And he
Yeah.
can't fly or anything, right?
No, I don't
He's
think
just
so. You
swimming.
swim.
Right? Okay, so here was my idea. I thought of this on the cruise ship this week. Atlantis, I assume, is in the Atlantic. That's where his
I think that's safe to
It's-
say, right?
Yeah.
safe to say, right from the thing. So if there's trouble in the Pacific, does he have to go through the Panama Canal? Does he have to like wait in the locks and stuff? Like he's just going through and stuff.
That's
like-
funny. That's funny.
I
think
like
there's-
that.
I like
I think
that.
there's something there.
Yeah, I like
Okay.
Yeah,
that.
because he can't go around the Cape Horn or whatever.
Right,
It
you
is,
just got to
'cause, yeah,
take it right.
takes-
It might
Right.
take too long, right? The
Right.
emergency's going to be over. Okay.
He's got the Suez Canal and the Panama
Suez,
Canal.
he's
That's
got-
all he's got.
He's going to
Exactly.
wait just like everyone else. All
'Cause,
right.
yeah, if there's the Indian Ocean, he has to hit the Suez.
He's got to go through. Okay.
I mean,
Shortcuts.
does the Pacific have their own superhero? Like, does he have to get approval from
That's
another?
right, exactly.
Ah.
Maybe there's
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if the guy from the Atlantic can go over to the Pacific without permission.
Yeah.
You might have to get
yeah.
approval
Yeah.
from
I
someone.
mean, there's Aquaman,
Exactly.
then what Waterboy runs the
Water-
Atlantic.
Waterboy.
Sandler runs the
Yeah.
Pacific.
Yeah, there you go. I'm the
Oh.
water boy.
exactly. No, that's good. I like it, man. I like it. I
Okay,
like it.
we'll see. I'll let you
Hold
know
up.
if the audience likes it.
I want to say this real quick before I forget. Do you know any Polish at all?
No, I used to when my dad passed away about 10 years ago. And
Okay.
he used to every once in a while just throw out some, like cheers and good morning and all that kind of stuff. But I don't even
Okay.
remember. I don't even remember that stuff now.
I know
Yeah.
one bit of
Oh, what do you got?
Polish. Zajebiście.
Oh, I don't know that.
Okay, so Zajebiście. It's like saying it's basically like saying fuck yeah, but I guess you can't
Oh.
really, so it's like yeah,
Oh, I like
Zajebiście. Yeah, so Zajebiście.
I
That's
like
it.
that. That's good for the stage because then the people don't know it's a little dirty. But yeah, you're right. You can say it. You can get away with it.
Exactly.
I like
Yeah.
it. Zajebiście.
Zajebiście.
What did
So,
your dad do
nice.
for a living?
was
He
he
was
military?
no.
Yeah.
Well, he was in the Coast Guard. We always joke that wasn't really military because it was just off the coast. And
That's funny.
we used to. There was a joke. There's obviously a rivalry between all the services. So I used to always dig him. I was like, well, yeah, you had to be 6 foot tall to be in the Coast Guard, right, Dad? And he's like, no, I don't think that's a requirement. I was like, yeah, I think that way, if the ship sank, you could just walk to shore because you're that close. Like, but he was a carpenter. He did a bunch of everything, but his main job was he was a glazer, so like a glass guy. Like he
Oh,
installed
wow,
windows
okay, cool.
and yeah.
Yeah,
So-
that's cool.
I guess because I'm wondering then, like when you started to do well, you did stand up later, so you're more of an adult. Like, why'd you join the Navy? Did you feel pressure? Like, what happened?
Yeah, you know what? We were so my parents were divorced and we were always tight on money. And I was going to go to college, but I wasn't smart enough that I had any scholarships or talent like that way. So it was, I had a summer job set up that was going to pay, like my sister had done this where she worked at this factory and it basically made enough over the summer to pay for her whole tuition. And
Oh,
so I
nice.
had that job lined up too, 8 years later when I was going. And at the last second, it fell through. The job fell through. And I was like, so it was either get student loans or do something else. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna join the Navy. So it was a little bit of a whim.
Why
So-
you pick Navy?
Yeah, I was gonna say, why Navy over the Air Force, Army, and Marines?
Yeah, I mean, now I would look back and probably do Air Force because they're the cushiest. But but you guys know me. I'm not much of a Marine or Army guy. Like I'm not even much of like a Navy guy. After like a week into boot camp, I was like, this was the wrong choice.
I love that it was a weekend. It was 2 days, and he was like,
pretty quickly.
he's like, I probably could have. I think I could have got a scholarship.
Should have took some student loans.
Student loans.
Exactly. I could have got a Pell Grant. Like financial aid is a real thing.
Financial, right? I could have done it, but just because I didn't want money hanging over me, I chose this. But anyways, I chose it because I wanted to travel. That is the one thing I knew from talking to my dad and other people who had been in the service. Is there if you're in the Army, Air Force, or Marines, you usually you get stationed in one place and that's where you stay. Whereas in the Navy, I got to see all of Europe. I got to see all the Caribbean.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, it was great. It was a lot of places that I would never have gone.
And you said
you
said you went to college as well too, right?
Yeah, then I went to college afterwards, back in Illinois, where I grew up.
Wow.
I grew up outside Chicago. Yeah.
So you did both. You went to the military.
That's crazy. Yeah, what did you take in college?
Communication media studies is that was my major. So I wanted to get into was thinking at that time broadcasting or maybe sportscasting, that kind of thing. But it was always in the back of my head, comedy. I wanted to do comedy, but it was one of those things again, the balls to do it. And then even the balls to admit it, you know what I mean?
Right,
to say out loud, hey, this is what I want to do.
And there's no plan of how to do it.
Right,
you know
right,
what I mean?
exactly.
It's you figured it out on your own.
That's awesome.
Yeah. That's it. You find other comics and they hopefully lead you along.
So Steve, time frame wise, we could say that you probably entered the military at 18, roughly, right? 18,
Yep.
5 years. So that gets you out at 23.
23, yeah.
And then 4 years of college.
Yeah,
Yep.
what
They
made
get
you
you
want to
out
go
of-
to college? You just thought you needed more.
Exactly. I thought I needed to do it, and again, I didn't have the balls to really try comedy yet or know how to do that. So I thought, maybe just having some broadcasting background and speech classes and English and those writing skills and stuff like that would help me.
Okay.
Right.
So
Wow.
I again, kind of. No plan about it really.
Right. Well, but you know what though? I'm thinking, for example, for me, I graduated high school at 18, right? And then I go straight to college. So now I graduate college at 22, but there's still that thing of no life experience, don't know what I want to do. So after having been in the military for 5 years, traveled, seen the world, been a part of something, once you get to college, I think there's just probably more focus, right? And understanding.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. In fact, I knew guys that I served with who went right from high school to college and failed out within 6 months, just because not because they were stupid or anything, just because there's just you go from the strict 12 years to all of a sudden it's just you're free and they don't care if you show up for class or not, as long as they're paying, right? They couldn't handle that freedom. They were partying too much and that kind of thing, and then 6 months later they joined the Navy.
And let's be honest, and let's be honest, you're still young. I mean, 18, 19 years old, you haven't lived enough. So like you said, you go from being in an institution where it's structured and you have periods, and you got a class and got to be at a place, to all of a sudden go into a bigger institution where you got on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, you got 3 classes. On Tuesday, Thursdays, you got 2, and you got all this free time. And you live in the dorms, you're on campus and people are drinking and it's partying and hanging out. It's unless you have that maturity to understand, you're there to do a thing, it's easy to fall between the cracks, right?
100%. Yeah, you need the discipline. So when I went back later, being more mature, it was so easy. But even still at 23, I mean, take out the comedy bug, but whispering in my ear the whole time. I don't know that if I couldn't do comedy, I don't know that I would have, even at 23 after the Navy, known this is what I want to do with my life, that kind of thing. You know what I mean? And again, you take off 5 years. How many people coming out of high school know what they want to do? It's a weird thing to jump right in and getting all that debt right away.
Exactly. It's they tell you to go to school, and then after 2 years, then they're like, now you got to pick a major. You're like,
right, yeah, that's
it's I haven't done anything to pick a major.
I don't know what I want to do. Yeah.
Okay, so now you're finished with college. You graduate. Where'd you go to school at?
Northern Illinois University, just outside. It's a little home of the Huskies, little corn town DeKalb,
Okay.
Illinois. Yeah.
All right. So you graduate from college. You're 29 years old.
Mhm.
Now, where and how does comedy start for you?
How do you end up in
So-
San Francisco?
So,
And how do you
yeah,
end up
so
in San Francisco?
this is kind of a funny story. My sister was living in San Francisco, Pleasanton, actually. Oh no, Fremont at this time. She had been
Okay.
living in Pleasanton, then moved to Fremont, and she had just had her second kid. So she had two kids. One was 2, and one was just born. And I wasn't going to have kids anytime soon. And I loved this niece and nephew idea, and I was like, oh, I want to kind of be close to them, right?
Oh, it's
So
cool.
I had no plans. So I was like, I just got this degree in broadcasting and stuff. Maybe I'll take that out there, see what I can do. So I moved out to California, Fremont, and within 3 months, her husband got a job in Chicago, and they moved back there. So
Wow.
I was
Wow.
left in the Bay Area, and so it was either go back with them, chase them, or I was there by myself. I think I was bartending when I first got there, and then I had gotten a job at it was the .com boom was going on at that time,
Okay.
the first
Yes.
one, late 90s, 99 actually. And so I found a job as a recruiter, which was the easiest job in the world at that point, just because every startup was just looking for, they were giving it was so easy to find a person a job. It was
Right.
the best job ever. And at that point, since I was left alone, I was like, all right, I'm alone here by myself. You always said you were going to try comedy. Now's the time. And I knew San Francisco. I knew the reputation it had, from Robin Williams, Jake Johansson, Dana Carvey, all these people, everything from the Alex Bennett Show. I was like, I know this is a great area to start comedy. So yeah, I just started looking into it and seeing where the open mics were and that kind of thing, and jumping in.
You
Wow.
moved from Fremont to SF?
Yeah, I stayed in the East Bay for probably the first year, and then once I was like, oh, I got to be up every night. Everyone kept saying stage time stay. I asked all the senior guys, Arj and Jim
Yeah.
Short, and all those guys, like, hey, how do I do this? How do I do this? And they're like, you just do it. You got to stage time. That's all of it. So
Yeah.
I was like, all right, I got to be in the city then. So I started going the other way. I'd work in the East Bay, but I lived in the city then, and
Wow.
would drive back into the city and try and get 2 or 3 sets a night.
You were bitten by the comedy bug.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Right in. I remember I did.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
you guys will know the place. In case your listeners don't know, there's a place called my very first set was the laundromat.
Brainwash.
The Brainwash
The
laundromat.
Brainwash.
That was my
Yeah.
second.
That
My
was
first was
my
the luggage store.
no.
Oh,
My
nice,
first.
Yeah.
My
Both
first was the
fun
Brainwash.
Oh, good. You as well, Reggie? Yeah.
Yes, sir. The Brainwash at 11:55 p.m.
So there's
Well,
nobody
that's-
there. It's the
It's
worst.
like
That's-
it literally was like me, Tony Starks, and like maybe
Yes.
5 people, right?
Yes.
And
yeah.
I got up and so I grew up here. And
Yeah.
So
But weren't you like, I have the same story, Reggie. I showed up early. I was wearing a suit,
oh wow.
Like I was
I-
ready.
I used to
I
wear
didn't have a
suits
suit
when
on.
I was at a
Everyone's
suit
like,
shop.
look at this city. I didn't know. I was just going by what I saw on TV. And I saw the list. I had worked that day, and I get there and I list. I was like, well, I don't want to go first, so I signed myself up 4th. And Tony shows up and he's like, all right, good man, we're gonna get you up. And he's like, I didn't go up till like the show started at 8. I didn't go up till till almost midnight.
Dude, that
Even
was
though I
it.
was 4th. I was 4th on the list, and I kept getting bumped. I was like, all right, but I'm new, so I'm not making any stink.
You're standing there in your suit.
Exactly. So everyone can look at me, boy. Who's that guy with the suit over there? And
That was
so
beautiful.
I finally go up at the end, and it's the guy who just left the stage is still there, Tony. The guy making coffee or cleaning the place up, and some girl folding your laundry. So 4 people.
Yeah.
But when I left, I was like Judd Nelson at the end of Breakfast Club. I was like, yeah, like I did it. You know what I mean? Even though it was terrible. At a laundromat, and I got bumped for 3.5 hours. It still felt good that I did
It's
it.
true.
That still felt good. That's
I've
see, that's the part of that's the
you
part that
need
our
a
listeners
one
will
laugh.
finally. Yeah, that's the part that our listeners get to hear is that even in that moment, after getting bumped for 3.5 hours, or whatever the case may be, and you go up and you do it, you still feel good, right?
Yeah.
Like you're happy,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. This thing is a totally different thing. It's a totally
That
different
is
beast.
still one of my romantic. Listen, I've been lucky to do some cool things in comedy. That night is still one of my favorite feelings ever. is
Wow.
driving back. At that point, I lived in the East Bay, so I had to go. After that, I had to get up the next morning and work. I had a 45-minute ride back to the East Bay after this, waiting around for that long in my suit.
Yeah.
And but I was so you couldn't wipe the smile off my face. I was so excited. I had
That's
finally done
awesome, man. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
That's cool, man.
So then how do you
s-
transition from the open mics, and like what was the break for the clubs, and working
Yeah,
your
I
way
think it was just other comics. Luckily, like you guys know, making a name for yourself, just going out everywhere, and then eventually doing. I was trying to squeeze in, always at least 10 sets a week, so couple a night. And remember, I would keep on my calendar at work. I would keep a calendar of how many sets I did, and I would rate them and everything like that.
Oh,
Like when I was
wow.
supposed to be
Wow,
working,
that's
so I
next
was
level.
I was meticulous.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I think my highest, I got 18 sets one week, and so yeah, eventually you're out at places, and someone, I'm going to give an example, like Lee Levine, or someone
Right.
is like, hey, there's a gig that'll that I'm doing next week. They'll pay you to come host it, $25. So like, then that was the first like in thing where you get paid, and then you start
Yeah.
doing those, and then eventually you're hanging out at the Punchline in Cobb's, and then they're like, all right, well, you've been hanging out for months. We'll give you a try, and yeah,
Right.
hopefully it goes well, and you get more sets, and but yeah, it's a slow trickle of building a reputation, and all that. Yeah.
Hey,
Okay.
didn't Steve lived in did you live in like a famous comedy house in
Yes,
Richmond?
the famous comedy condo in outer Richmond, and 21st and Geary. There was a place that, geez, I'm going to forget his name now. Ron Lynch,
Okay.
who's a San Francisco comic who went on to write on a bunch of shows, and he's on an early Louis C.K. special. And he had his name on this lease, and only comics live there. He had been out of there for 15 or 16 years at that point I got there.
Oh,
But like
wow.
Dana Gould lived there, and then they had a book in the house of all the people who had slept there when they came to town. So Louis and Janine Garofalo, and the guy
Wow,
who
that's
created
cool.
Malcolm in the Middle lived there for a while. So yeah, there's just this great history. And so yeah, it was at that time it was me, John Hugasian, and I can't remember the other comic, but he moved out quickly, and then Mark Nadeau moved in.
Mark Nadeau.
Oh, yeah.
And then I think when I moved out, Ryan Stout replaced me. Colin Mahan was I think I might have replaced Colin.
Okay.
So yeah, so it was
Wow.
kind of a famous place, and then yeah, it finally the landlord learned that Ron Lynch wasn't living there, and they closed it up. I think maybe
Oh,
maybe
man.
two or 3 years after I left. So
Oh
Okay.
wow.
They
but it
started
was
a
like
new
rent
one.
control and cheap, and yeah, is there a new one? Oh, good.
There is a new one. There's I want to say they call it the Comedy Condo, and it's in
Yeah.
the Richmond as well, but it's
Yeah.
not the same place, obviously. But
Oh, I know. It's those guys. What are they? OJ Patterson used to live there.
yeah, like there was it had to be like 11 people living in this place or something
Man, that's
crazy.
a lot. That's
Oh,
a little
wow.
bit. It
Yeah,
was a little crazy.
It was a little crazy. Like it was all comedians. I'm sure that
Yeah.
the place was filthy. Nothing was washed or cleaned. You
Yeah,
can't touch
yeah.
anything. Right. Like it literally was just a place for them to go to keep from being outside. Right. Like
Right. Yes.
So-
You're one step from homeless. Yeah.
Exactly.
All right.
Exactly.
Before we talk to them about the movies, I want to talk about Letterman and you getting on Letterman and your film. And because I was Steve, it was great seeing him because we worked with Eddie Brill at the Punchline
Yes.
the first
Yeah,
time ever.
yeah.
And we were remembering the story that we were talking. We're both like, yo, this is the guy who books Letterman. We want to
This
look
is
good. And we were talking about
Yeah.
him in the bathroom. And we're like, what's he look like? Who is he? And then we come out of the bathroom and we're sitting on the stools waiting. And then out of the bathroom comes Eddie Brill. So he
Yeah.
was in the stall.
While we were
talking
talking
about
about it.
Hilarious.
Oh, just idiots. That probably stopped me from getting on Letterman for a few years. He's
But
like,
you,
well,
you
two guys
eventually
who
got
love to get
on.
Letterman.
Yeah.
I did. And it's the flip I was talking about. Reggie asked how you start getting booked and all that kind of stuff. And like I said, my idea was just keep working and working hard, and people will notice you.
Right.
But then I had moved down to LA. There was a little exodus from San Francisco. People moved down. The book was, oh, you got to move to LA or New York at one point. And so I chose LA for the weather, and I was down there, and I got sick. I went in for what they thought was appendicitis, and they pulled my appendix, but they said no, nothing was wrong with it. But they found tumors all over my liver, and so I got a
Oh, wow.
cancer diagnosis and they said worst case scenario, it was a rare kind of cancer. In worst case scenario, they didn't know a lot about it. You might only have 5 years to live, because that's how little they knew about this stuff. So I'm not a worst case scenario guy, but I obviously had to ask myself, if you really only have 5 years, what do how do you want to spend that? So my big dream in comedy was to get on the Letterman show. So I started chasing that. Like I was talking about doing comedy and clubs and stuff like that, just kind of working hard and they'll hear about you. And so I always thought that's how, like, Letterman, and that was my big dream, was as a kid, like, I'll do Letterman one day. My parents loved Carson, but I loved Letterman, and one day I'm going to do that. And now all of a sudden I had to ask myself, like, can you make that happen in 5 years? So I like the opposite of like, I'm going to get this many sets in. It was like, I'm going to make Letterman happen within 5 years. So I made that my goal. And a couple filmmakers heard about it and started kind of following me on the goal. And they made a documentary called Dying to Do Letterman. But yeah, spoiler alert, I did eventually make it, but it took a long time. And in fact, I thought I was very close when Sal and I got to work with Eddie Brill, because he was the booker.
Yeah.
And so of course you think, well, this week I'll shine in a thing, but bad first impression by talking about him in the bathroom. We didn't know he was taking a shit in there. And then I don't remember, we differ on this because I've talked to him about it. I don't think he watched any of my sets that week. Like every time I saw him, I think he was outside, that kind of thing. And again, not that he was required to watch my sets, but anyways, I gave myself a year to get on. That was my goal originally, and I came nowhere close to that, even getting their attention. And then it took almost the whole 5 years of.
You just constantly send him tapes?
Yeah, you're constantly submitting
over and over and over and over. And yeah, so there were times where he would respond and be like, I like this, I don't like this. Like, I remember the very first thing he liked was I had a joke about finding an insurance company said they could insure me for a fraction of what I was paying. Unfortunately, that fraction was 5/3. And I remember him saying, like, David Letterman, he's like, Letterman would love that joke. That's the great. So then stupidly, I was trying to write jokes like in that vein, like just write 5 more minutes of that. And so I was chasing that, and I was getting further away then. And so, it was just sending DVD after DVD. And sometimes he'd respond and say, I like this, I don't like this. Other times, then there was a period about 2 years where I never heard anything from him. And I was like, well, maybe this is done. And
oh, wow.
Eventually I sent a DVD with 5 new minutes. And then I was so almost discounting that it was ever going to happen. I would always send him 5 minutes, because that's what you would do on the show. I had a 15-minute set, and rather than editing it down like I usually did, I was just getting lazy. I was like, I'm not getting it anyways. Why am I going to edit this down to the 5 minutes? I just sent him the whole 15 minutes and the joke after the first 5 minutes. So it was a joke I thought he would not like, because it was one long bit.
Yeah.
And so usually they like joke, but this was one long 5-minute bit. So I just didn't edit out of the thing. And sure enough, as strange things happen in life, he called me up and he goes, I didn't like the 5 minutes you sent me, but that joke afterwards, that longer bit, I really love that. I think that could be the bit. And so, yeah, it was a fluke almost.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dude, that's awesome. I mean,
yeah,
how things work, right? Like,
yeah, exactly. You never know. You never know. And
you never know.
Even from his side, or I think, we're always trying to, figure out what bookers like or an audience likes and that kind of thing. And everyone will always say what they like, but I think half the time people don't know what they like anyways. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
right. They don't know what they like until they see it. Yeah.
It's like people are like, oh, I like blondes, but you're married to a brunette. You're like, well, you when you see it, you know it. This is what I'm into. Yeah. Right. So
and then the film, it did amazing on like the circuit tour, right?
Yeah. Yes. We went out to we did so many, like 30 film festivals, won awards, audience awards, and the big prizes at it for best documentary at all these film festivals. And then had a run on it's on Amazon Prime. And
did you have a shot at getting an Oscar?
Because I never saw it. I gotta see it. I've only seen
you like it. It's still on Amazon. I'll send you a link. Actually,
okay. Well, I have Amazon Prime, so I'll just go watch it tonight.
Well, check it. Yeah, it was free for a while on Prime. You might have to rent it. So if it's the rental one, I'll send you a link where you don't have to pay.
Okay.
But yes. So we were in the running for best documentary. We didn't get in the short list, but we're on the long list for best documentary Oscar. And then
Wow.
I think
cool.
it was.
That's great though. That's
Yeah,
really cool.
yeah, it was an exciting time. I mean, it was,
Yeah.
and it was fun for me because I'd put so much into chasing the Letterman goal and not really, again, there was a lot of health stuff I was going through at the same time, but it was nice to have this goal, so I didn't think about the health stuff,
Right.
to focus on that instead. And then so if I didn't have afterwards, once I got on Letterman, then we got to finish the documentary. So the documentary was either going to be me dying and not getting on Letterman, or me getting on Letterman. Or, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Those are the two options.
Yeah.
So we had
Holy
the
cow.
good ending, and
We had the good
so-
ending.
we had the good
Thank
ending.
goodness.
And so it was nice then to focus to move that focus to the documentary. It was like, oh, okay,
Right.
well now we got a lot of work to do with this, and finishing it and taking it across the country and selling it. We sell it to. It was nice. I don't know if you guys are Beastie Boys fans.
Oh,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
one of the Beastie Boys has a production company, and his production company is the one that ended up buying the film and marketing it
Wow.
and everything.
Wow.
So yeah,
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Hey, Steve,
Yeah.
let me ask you this real quickly. And this is just in regards to your health. So,
Yeah.
So you said your liver was riddled with tumors,
with
right?
tumors, yeah.
And
Yep.
so at this point, they know what kind of cancer it was. What type of cancer was it? And
So
then,
yeah, it's one of these words I had to learn. I had never, you just like cancer is all I knew beforehand. So it's neuroendocrine carcinoid tumors is what
Okay.
I had all over my liver. So they're small tumors and relatively slow growing.
Okay.
So at that point when I got diagnosed, they didn't know how long they had been there. They just knew they were covering my liver, and they were there to an extent that usually the liver is one of those organs you can chop in half and the other half will grow back.
right. It
So if
regenerates.
there was one or two tumors, they could have just done that, but it was covering the whole thing. So they knew they couldn't do that.
Right.
And they knew that the tumors had come from somewhere else. It was almost like that horror story, like it's coming from somewhere else,
Right.
inside the house. So I had to go through like a month of tests to figure out where the tumors were coming from. And they eventually found it in my intestines.
Oh,
So
okay.
so they had to go in there. I had surgery to take out like a foot of my intestines. And then it was like, well, all right, what do we do about these tumors on the liver? And now luckily we have done nothing with those tumors on my liver. We've just, the oncologist that I got to said, hey, listen, this is rare. The good and bad of this is we don't know how fast they're growing. We don't know how long you've had them, but let's wait and see. Your liver's functioning. We're
Okay.
worried about these things, but let's not try anything crazy, because there were a couple trial things they wanted me to thinking about me getting into at the time. But they're like, if you're not like affected by it right now, let's wait and see. Let's see how these grow over 6 months and a year and that kind of thing. And so luckily here I am. Whoop. That
was
timing.
That was perfect timing. Luckily, here I am. It's just like,
Look here,
Dropped the camera.
yeah, like it's like, oh God. So,
but luckily here I am. Yeah, 15 years later. So
wow, that's awesome, man.
The tumors
see-
have just grown. I still go for scans every 6 months to a year, and they've
Okay.
measured them, and it's just very tiny. I've been lucky since that point that
Wow.
they've
That's
grown slow and they
crazy.
haven't
That's-
affected. Yeah.
And you
So-
feel like you're on borrowed time, like you go through a
Yeah.
spiritual reckoning. Like
Up and
what's
down.
the effect?
Up and down, like it goes both ways. Like there are times where I'm like, oh my God, I'm so lucky to be here, so I'm gonna make sure I'm healthy from this point on. I'm gonna eat right, I'm gonna do everything, exercise right. And then there's other times where that flips, and I'm like, you know what, I shouldn't even be here. Like, you need to live every second. Like, I'm gonna eat whatever I
Right.
want. I'm gonna
Right.
enjoy
Right.
it.
Right.
Like, and listen, I know people, good friends who didn't have cancer, who died. I lost 3 friends in those 15 years to
Right.
people,
Wow.
people who were car accidents, drug overdose, other.
Right.
So you never know what it's going to be. So it's I know some people change everything drastically. I go back and forth. I
Okay.
like seesaw back
So,
and forth on
Is
it.
it technically still cancer?
Yeah, it's technically still cancer,
That's
and it's technically
crazy, dude.
still not cured. It's still active, just because they are growing, and I've just been lucky that it's a slow growth.
Wow. So does it affect your bilirubin at all?
What's that?
Does it affect your bilirubin? Has it
Billy
affected-
Rubin.
Bilirubin.
I don't know bilirubin.
Oh, okay. So
I like
long
how he
story-
drops that all like nonchalant.
Yeah, I didn't
like,
know.
Oh, okay. Well,
Come
because
on,
it's
scientists.
I know
No,
Bob
just-
Rubin.
yeah, that's funny. Like, whoa, Bob Rubin. Oh, all right, big hair.
Yeah.
Oh, and there's a lot of this.
He's crazy.
Oh,
Yeah,
right.
that's a good
Um,
Bob Rubin.
Thank you, thank you. Basically, the bilirubin is because your liver filters your blood, right? And in your
Hmm.
blood plasma, there's a yellow
Like a
content.
bile kind of.
Yeah, a yellow
Yeah.
bile, and that your body, excretes through your
Yes.
waste, right? But if your liver's not functioning well, that bilirubin, the yellow bile can collect, right? And that's what
Right.
causes jaundice. Like people's eyes will
I
turn
see.
yellow,
That's
right?
the
Or the
color.
skin.
Man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was just wondering if the tumors were affecting the function of your liver, which would affect your bilirubin at all. Okay. So you
No.
said
So
no.
yeah, I've been lucky. The only thing I have is no. In fact, that's their worry, of course, is so they always just say it as liver function. Your liver, I get blood tests. I do every 3 months.
Okay.
So they're always testing that stuff to make sure that the levels of everything are fine. But yeah, that's their worry, is that eventually these tumors would start affecting the liver operation, and
Right.
that's been the lucky part. So the only real things I'll have kind of a pain in my side every once in a while.
Okay.
Because the tumor is kind of touching other organs and rubbing up against stuff, and then I'll flush sometimes. I guess that's actually one of the symptoms of kind of like the liver function, and then in the beginning the intestinal stuff I was having, whereas like certain foods and stuff like that just like make me kind of
You have a reaction
but
to it.
nothing to that level of where any organs are stopping working. Now after the surgery, if they hadn't taken out the intestines, I would have had some obviously major problems then, because that's
Okay.
where
Okay.
the original
Wow,
part
man.
was.
Wow.
That
Hey,
is crazy.
that's
Yeah.
Steve. Hey man, I have a couple friends right now. I have one friend with leukemia and another friend
Oh,
with
geez.
lymphoma, and both of their cancers are kind of doing the same thing as yours. Like it's not super active, it's not aggressive, it's not progressing, and it's not digressing. It's just kind of just chilling, which is awesome, man. So
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So fingers crossed, and knock on wood.
I mean-
It was so lucky. It's a different time, right? Like growing up in the 80s, they couldn't detect this stuff early enough. So that's
Right.
the big thing now, is they can catch it early enough and do these things that will keep it at bay and
Right.
stuff like that. Whereas
Were you like
before
scared
it was a
shitless?
death sentence. Oh yeah. I mean, I really thought like 5 years. Holy shit. I'm only going to be, like at that point I would have,
Fuck.
late
Yeah.
30s, I would have died. Like, it was, you really think that, like, and then again, but then life goes on. I remember like everyone like rallying around me, my family, my friends, my wife was just my girlfriend at the time. And, like seriously considering this, like, oh my God, I'm not gonna be here. And what's, thinking about your mortality, all that kind of stuff. And then after a couple of days, everyone was going back to work and stuff. And I was like, hey, wait a second. Wait, you guys aren't worried about this anymore? I'm still worried about it. And then,
Dude, that is
it's still bothering me. And then a week later, I was like, oh shit, I got rent. I still have to
it's
worry.
so
right.
hardcore, man.
Yeah, like
So-
your life still goes on in a certain way.
As life
right?
goes on, and in some ways that saves you, because it sucks that it goes on, but it also
Right.
is the good thing that, like, all right, well, I just can't sit here and wallow in it.
Right. Like I
Wow,
can't sit here
man.
and wait to die, basically. It's like
Yeah.
gotta live,
Wow.
right? Wow,
That is
man. I can
amazing,
imagine. Yeah, just the mental, and then the fortitude and the perseverance, and then the determination,
Yeah.
and then to get to that point and then have it be like, oh, wait, okay, so we still all right, cool, right?
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
man.
You talk
So
about it
I-
on stage?
I didn't. I tried early on, and I just wasn't good. I'll talk about it with. I've been lucky to fall in with some cancer groups and stuff that I'll do some work with. Hosting events for them and that kind of thing. And so when I'm with them, I'll talk about it and I'll share the stuff. But a general crowd, it turns them, for me. It turns them.
Yeah.
It makes them feel sorry for me.
Right.
Kind of thing, and it changes the aspect. So if I ever do bring it up, I bring it up all the way at the end of my set after I've proved I'm funny and all
Yeah.
that stuff.
Yeah.
Hey, Steve.
But it's some of it's
Oh,
too
yeah.
Dark. Like I'll give you an example. Like I had a joke early on about that. Like I got married. That was the other thing I did. And that immediately I was dating this girl, Denise, and we had known each other about 6 months at that point. And again, she was in her early 30s. A smarter woman would have been like, well, I'm not gonna stay with a guy who might not be here in 5 years. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I can't start a family with this guy who might not be here, but she stuck with me. I couldn't believe it. We only knew each other 6 months at that time. So anyways, I proposed to her. We
Wow.
ended up getting married, but I had a joke at that point about I wasn't ever going to get married because I could never see myself spending my whole life with just one woman. But if that was only a couple of years, so that was the joke. And it was kind
That's
of dark,
funny.
and a normal audience would like pull back and feel, but a cancer crowd just loves that because they've all felt that. They've
Right.
all,
Yeah.
Right.
they can laugh at that. So it's, but like Robert Schimmel was around. I kind of,
Yeah.
got to work with him a couple times, and he was amazing. He was obviously a much more seasoned comic than I was when I got diagnosed. But he was amazing about being able to bring that to the stage and talk about it hilariously.
Oh yeah,
I couldn't make that happen.
he went all in. I remember seeing Robert
Mhm.
Schimmel. He would go in deep and hard, right? And
Yeah.
the last time I saw him, I remember because he was showing like a video or he looks a slideshow, right?
Yeah.
Because he had lost one of his youngest kid, I think it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When he lost his kid. I remember the show being really intense but funny, right?
Right.
And then at the end, showing the slideshow and talking about his kid leave, like that part was, very heartfelt. It was like emotionally, it was kind of
Right.
gut wrenching in a sense, but
Yeah.
I felt like it ran the gamut for the whole show. Like he gave you the funny, he talked about real life stuff, what was happening with him and his family and everything else. And you kind of got your laughs being in a comedy club, but then at the end, he was like, but I'm going to end it with this real thing. Which personally, I mean, I appreciate it because I just felt like it was such a authentic and genuine experience where you really felt like someone was being vulnerable, right?
Yeah,
And sharing with you.
100%.
So, but yeah, I can't imagine like it was, I think it's hard, right? I don't think that's an easy thing to do.
It's a testament to what a great comic he was, that he had that skill to take that stuff and make it funny.
Right,
That's
right.
true.
Because I like I said, I didn't, and I still don't have it. Like I've tried times to reapproach it and stuff like that, but
You don't have to,
he was,
you know what I
he was
mean?
a master.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And you don't have
other
to
thing too, right?
Yeah, there's no reason to. It's like if you're having fun and comedy's going well and you're having a good time, then I had personally, this is one of my own things, but I love Richard Pryor, right? I love Richard Pryor. I listen to him and I'm always very envious of his ability to be completely vulnerable and open and sharing all the good, the bad, and the in-between about who he is. And for the longest, I kind of held myself to the standard of this idea of like, if I want to be great or if I want to be good, I have to be that vulnerable. I have to be able to expose myself, be an open nerve. And then at some point I was like, no, I ain't gotta do that shit. He did it.
Right.
I was like, no, I'm good. It's like,
yeah.
I'll just do me. I'll be happy with
100%. That's why I always say he's my guy. He's my influence. Like you would never watch my comedy and then be like, oh, that guy's biggest influence is Richard Pryor, but he is. You know what I mean? Like it's just it's a different way. It's we don't have to do what he did.
Yeah.
All right, let's end up with these movies. Let's close this up. Let's talk about your podcast. So your podcast, you tell us about it real quick.
Okay, it's called my last name's Maison, Steve Maison. So it's called the Maison Movie Club, and the idea is, you've heard people have a book club that they read a book stuff. This is like a book club for people who hate to read, and so instead of reading, we watch a movie each week. And then we talk about it on the podcast. And so the listeners themselves, the people who are listening to the podcast, they send me their thoughts. They're watching the movie with me each week.
Oh, that's
not
cool.
with me, but like at home. And then on Facebook and social media, they send me their thoughts. I include them in the podcast each week. And then I also usually have a guest or two that come on. And then I always ended up with my mom watches the movie. She's Irish. So we call her the Irish critic. And she chimes in with her thoughts each week. So, yeah. And then I make her judge, this is a little before your generation, but I think you guys will still remember this. Remember like when Blockbuster was around? But the local one, the local video store, there'd be the black curtain at the back.
Oh, yes, sir.
Yeah. The adult film titles. So you'd go in there and they would always have the funny titles like, Batman was Buttman or Forrest Rump or, all these, takeoffs. So I always make my mom, she's a sweet old lady, but I make her, she's 82. I make her judge the listeners send in for whatever the movie is that week. They send in the little film titles for that movie. And then I make her judge the best one and we give an award away.
Oh, that's awesome.
So it's so it's kind of fun. So that's the podcast. So I've counted down to pick the movie for each week. I figured we'd go through what are considered the greatest movies. So I counted down the top 100 movies as rated on IMDb. And then I went through the top 100 movies on the American Film Institute list. And obviously there's some movies that are on both. So skip those. But that's where I was. And then the pandemic hit and a lot of people were out of work. So I started doing movies that were free on Netflix or Amazon so that people wouldn't have to, spend any money each week. So that's what I've been doing probably the past year or so. But yeah, we've done a couple hundred films already. So
every week. Awesome.
Yeah. So
okay. So I just want to say this before I forget. The little curtain in the back of the local video store.
Yes.
Before I went in there, I always would be like out loud, like, I wonder what's in here. Like I always feel like I need to throw out the disclaimer before I walk in there, right?
I know.
Yeah, like I didn't know, because you don't want to be the guy who walks into the video store, makes a beeline for the black curtain in the back, right?
Exactly. Right.
Like you got to look at other movies first. You pick them up, you kind of go, oh, RoboCop 3. I think that's a great movie. I got to check that one. Oh wait, what's in here?
Right. Each time, the video clerk at the front's like, he's every time.
Every time.
All right, so
Okay.
we both saw The Shining,
love it.
really for
Yeah.
the first time.
Okay.
and-
So you hadn't seen it before.
No,
Great.
we've seen parts,
No.
but we never watched
Yes.
the whole thing. So
Yes.
we both watched it separately, the whole thing, and fucking crazy. I mean, I thought
Okay,
it was
let
pretty
me,
scary.
Let me ask one question before we get
Okay.
deep into it.
Okay.
How did you watch it? Because I do think that matters. Did you watch alone? Were the lights out? Did you watch with the
Oh,
group? Were you
well.
on your phone? Were you?
I was in a
Okay.
drive-through.
So Sal was he was all in. He was fully engaged. I watched it on the computer.
Okay.
On the computer at my kitchen table.
All right.
And the lights were on. Unfortunately,
Okay.
it wasn't dark.
All right.
And
I
I
will
started,
say though, hey,
and
even in a drive-through, shit was scary.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I
You
started
say
late.
drive through, drive in?
Or drive-in.
drive-in,
Now, I
drive-in.
watched
Oh, I
it in a
was like,
McDonald's
which one?
drive-through. No,
Yeah.
How much are you ordering?
Yeah, really.
That's funny. No, yeah,
And-
drive-in. My girlfriend and I watched it in a drive-in in
okay.
Glendale. In Glendale,
and
I
I
like
got-
a little pop-up.
And I gotta admit,
All right.
Steve, I was actually pretty tired when I started watching it too. It was late.
Okay.
So
All right. So yeah,
Um,
so all this matter. That's what I've learned from watching all these movies on the podcast is that all this stuff ends up mattering when you see it, who you
Really?
see it with, where he's, oh yeah, it's such a difference. In fact, there's and then reading a lot about stuff, like even guys like the most famous film critics like Ebert will be like, I saw this movie and I hated it. And then I realized I was in a bad mood that day and I rewatched it and I think it's one of the greatest things ever made. Like, it can
Weird.
go that way. So
Okay.
when and where you see it, depends so much on stuff. Yeah. So sorry, Reggie, I cut you off though.
no, that was it. I was just gonna say that I was tired and
Yeah.
and I kind of dozed off a couple times, so I had to go back and watch things over and you know,
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
I probably should watch it again.
So what we take from it is a guy is slowly losing his mind, but then of course the picture at the end, we're like, so was he always there? Was he a spirit? Was he haunted? What the hell's up with the bear giving the blowjob to the guy at the end? Like, we're all over the place.
Yeah, dude. And why
Yeah.
do they call it The Shining when The Shining
When
takes
it's
place?
barely in it.
It's barely in it. The Shining is the black guy and the little boy, and they both have this mental telepathy and his ability to speak to each other. And he's like, "That's The Shining." My grandmother and I used to sit and
Yeah.
talk to each other without moving our mouths, right? And then the movie's
Yeah.
called The Shining, and it's Jack who's going crazy trying to kill his family.
We're
And he don't
focusing
have The
more on
Shining.
Jack. Yeah.
Right. So
Right.
maybe The Shining saved. No, okay, so I'm thinking this now. Maybe The Shining saved the mother and the little boy because the little boy was able to communicate with Scatman Crothers in Miami,
Yeah.
and so he ended up coming there, and he
The Shining killed Scatman.
The Shining killed Scatman, but it saved the mother and the little boy, right? Because he
Right.
basically brought the snow machine for them to leave on, right? So
Right.
maybe that's why they call
Well, I
it.
want to
The
hear.
Shining.
Well, Steve, what's your
Okay,
explanation?
okay, yeah.
Oh my God. Well, then listen, this is funny. That's why I was excited that you guys hadn't talked about it yet, because it may be the most dissected film of all time.
Oh, really?
There-
What a
yes,
doozy
yeah.
we
Wow,
picked.
okay.
So yeah, you
okay.
picked a doozy because Stanley Kubrick directs it, and he's thought of as maybe possibly the greatest filmmaker of all time. He's made the greatest horror film, the greatest sci-fi movie in 2001, the greatest satire in Doctor Strangelove. So he's famous for when he picks a genre, he's arguably has made the greatest movie in that genre then. So The Shining is that one. It's from a Stephen King movie. Stephen King hated this movie. He thinks
Yeah.
it's a bad adaptation of his book. The book is more from the perspective as the kid, like Reggie was talking about. So you get more of the kind of shining in the thoughts.
Okay.
Whereas Kubrick focused more on Jack and that kind of stuff.
Right.
And is he crazy? Where in the book it's much more about like, is the alcoholism taking him over? Which we get some of that in this, but it's more crazy, right? Like him going nuts slowly from the
the isolation, right?
isolation. And
Right.
but there's so many things. That's what I mean. We could talk about this movie for 7 hours and still not get. There's even a documentary about the movie
There is,
called
that's
Room
right.
Room 308 or something like that. Whatever the room they go into, where the lady is in the
Yeah.
bathtub that he says don't go into. That's the name of the documentary. But there's a lot of hidden stuff in the movie. There's a lot of things that Kubrick put in there about. This sounds crazy in a horror movie about this white family, but there's a lot of stuff about Native Americans in it. If you watch,
There is.
there's lots of art, and the design is a lot of Native Americans. So it's a lot about us, hidden things in there about us taking the Indians' land and stuff like that. There's also, I don't know if you guys have heard this. In fact, when I did this, is a kind of a little funny tangent, and it'll make sense in a second. When I watched the movie, you know how I was watching an interview afterwards with Kubrick about it on YouTube, and you know how it recommends other stuff then,
Mhm.
you know, on YouTube, like, oh, if you like that, you like this. So there is a theory that Kubrick faked. He was such a, if you've seen 2001, like that's 10 years before Star Wars, and the effects are just amazing. It really, when you watch it, it looks like they're in space. If you've seen 2001, it's a movie made in the late 60s. It's so incredibly done. If you watch other movies where, you know, like people are supposed to be in space, it's so fake and cheesy, but all of a sudden this guy does the same thing. So much so that people think Stanley Kubrick faked the moon landing, that he's the
Yeah.
guy that shot and faked the moon
Oh
landing.
wow!
If you watch, there's a lot of nods in The Shining. There's a giant eagle. The eagle has landed on the desk when Jack first goes to the thing. Danny at the end is wearing a sweater that says Apollo and has a rocket on it, which was the Apollo 11
yeah.
that landed
Oh,
on
wow.
on the thing. There's all these nods, and a lot of people think that this is Kubrick saying, "Hey, yeah,
Admitting.
I admitted it. Yeah, I'm admitting I did this." So yeah, it's really interesting. Like I said, there's so much in it, and there's a lot that's left ambiguous. So it's like,
Right.
does that mean when we see that photo at the end, does that mean Jack has been there before, or does it mean now he's just placed in there amongst all these ghosts that have been there before?
Oh,
Oh,
you
because he's
know,
dead
and-
now. That's
because he's
true.
dead, and
Right.
they're all ghosts.
Oh, I didn't even
Um,
think of that. Like, because they
yeah.
show the picture afterwards.
Yeah. Oh
Right.
wow! Wow, that just blew my mind.
Has that picture changed, or was it like that already? Was he,
Oh.
you know, coming back? You know, I mean, the ghosts seem to know him already, right? Like when they,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
We
yeah.
were wondering, why is the one ghost racist? Like, there's racist ghosts. That was kind of interesting.
Which one? I can't remember. Which
Well, the
bartender.
one, not the bartender. It was the guy.
Yeah.
It was,
Oh,
it
no,
was the
butler?
guy who
He's
said
called
he
the
was the
butler.
caretaker. He
The
kept
care-
calling him the
Yes.
caretaker.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And that guy, yeah, he dropped the N-bomb a couple times, and then we're like,
was he
then
talking
he
about
said,
Scatman? Is that?
Yeah.
what
yes,
we
he was
were
talking about
thinking?
Scatman, and then we're like, well, wait, is that Jack's own mind? Because he's got a little troublesome mind.
Well, that's the whole thing. Is any of it real? Right? Is this all in Jack's head? Right?
Right.
But then the
one
woman
moment-
sees the stuff.
The
The
woman,
woman
sees the
sees
stuff,
the stuff.
and the one thing you can't explain away with ghosts, unless how far you think about ghosts, is if it's all in Jack's head, how does he get out of the locker?
Right.
Right?
Right.
Right? Because
Right.
someone lets him out of the
Right.
locker.
Yeah.
Someone lets him out of the locker, and Scatman actually comes.
Hello?
Yes.
Scatman
Right.
does. He comes. The ghost
Yes.
is letting him know that the dude is coming.
Yes.
And he actually comes. So there's
That's
got to
true.
be. So
That's
there's-
true.
Oh man,
Jack
this
wouldn't
is-
have known that Scatman was coming.
exactly.
Unless, now here's the weird thing.
Okay.
You know, Scatman says my grandmother had The Shining, and we
Yeah,
used to talk blah
oh.
blah blah blah. Does Jack have a tiny little bit? Maybe his son's got more,
Oh yeah.
Jack
maybe-
maybe has a
you're
tiny
right.
bit,
Maybe it's
and he doesn't
genetic.
know. Maybe he's,
Right.
you know, that's what I mean. That's why this movie is so talked about so much, because there's so much even 40 years later that you're like, I'm not sure, but here's the theory. There's some amazing theories on it of what it
Wow.
all means. In fact, there's a scene earlier in the movie that purports to show Jack already there when he's not even at the thing, like at the thing. It looks like it's him in the background
Oh,
before he
wow.
ever arrives
Oh,
there and everything.
right.
Yeah, so
Oh,
there's
wow.
there's a lot of creepy stuff in it, and like you said, and then of course the really weird bear blowing the other guy, which is, you know, a nod to like the crazy parties they would have at the
And that's what I said.
the,
yeah.
the
Okay.
hotel way back in the day, that the ghosts are you know, part of that.
Wow.
But
And
but
so-
you get these two little girls that are most like two of the most famous things in any horror
Yeah.
movie ever. You know?
Yeah, and then we were saying how
Yeah.
that's influenced so much, like Freddy Krueger movies. They have little girls at the playground and
Yeah.
all that
Yeah.
creepy shit.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So
and like
okay.
you think about them, you know, how you know, scary it is, that thing. And again, like I said, watching it by yourself is a different experience, you know, in the dark or something. But like when he first turns that big wheel, which is every little kid's dream,
Oh,
to be able to
yeah.
drive a big wheel around, he turns and there's these two girls just standing there, right? How
Right.
creepy that is. But Kubrick shot it because these were all kids. They didn't know they were making a horror movie. You know what I mean? Like he's
Right.
shooting the angle so they like, he never sees them all bloody. The girls don't see that stuff. So it's
Right.
it's kind of
Yeah.
cool how it all gets done. He's a real master.
Another influence I felt was the lady in the bathtub was like the foretelling the red woman in Game of Thrones, where she's attractive
Yeah.
and then she's a
Just
super
kinda-
old.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Dead
Yeah.
on.
Oh
Dead on.
man, that's true. So can you explain to me why the black guy have to die?
It was the
I think
the
you know,
80s.
Reggie.
There's one death.
I think you know, Reggie.
Yeah, right. There is only
Hold up.
one.
The only good thing about the black dude dying in this horror film is that it happened at the end. Right?
Yes,
Yeah.
he makes it to the end.
He makes
How
it
about
to
this?
the end.
How about this? My favorite thing, and whenever I rewatch it, is I told my wife too. I want the artwork Scatman has on his walls at home.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, all the
see the-
naked women.
All
Yeah.
the naked, huge 70s afros, like, and they're just
So
completely buck
funny.
naked, not skin, big breasts, and everything. He's just like not hidden in his room, throughout his house. He's got it. I love it.
Hey, Scatman was about that life. He was
Of course,
he was
yeah.
about that life.
He's got.
So he's Scatman Crothers, man.
So yeah, it is. And I'm trying to think. The book, I would assume it's the same in the book, that he's a black man in the book. So it is weird, especially if, I mean, it's both probably groundbreaking that he's somewhat the hero in the movie,
Yeah.
but of course, it's the Star Trek thing. Well, he's going to be the one that's going to die.
He's
too,
gonna be the
right?
one-
He's the
Right.
black guy. Yeah.
I was like, dude, this dude is chilling in Miami where it's nice and warm, having a great time. They show him on a plane, go back to Colorado where it's freezing cold. He drives through the cold and the
Yeah.
storm, the wind, the whole,
Everything.
and he walks in. He's like, "Hello,
Yeah.
hello." I was like, "Scatman, what are you doing?" Right?
Shut up, Scatman, you're gonna get killed.
I used to walk around that motherfucker like this, like,
Exactly. Right.
hello,
Right.
And
Right.
then it's like, "Hey, boom, it's a wrap." And I was like,
All right, well, Steve,
Come
thank you
on,
so much,
so-
man. You guys
Yeah, that
gave
was
us so
great.
Oh
much
no!
time.
Thank you guys. That
We
was
covered
Thank you
everything.
guys. That was a blast. You guys made my week.
"Awesome,
Oh,
man.
it was
You made
fun,
ours.
man.
Yeah, this is gonna be one of the best ones right here, man. This is awesome, man. Thank you so much for taking the time and so much time too to speak with us and tell us.
Yeah,
the
And
whole
thank you.
story.
standing, he's
Sorry.
like standing outside the whole time.
Yeah, I know,
Oh,
you're-
look at
He's
it.
so
though. It's
tired.
beautiful. It's palm trees and
nice.
sun.
It is
Yeah,
a
it's
pretty
pretty good.
background. It is a pretty background.
So,
It's work.
hey,
Could be
and when do you
worse.
leave? When do you leave again? You leave?
Yeah, this afternoon, probably in a couple
Definitely.
hours. Yeah.
Okay.
Wow,
okay.
man, we'll kill it out there, dude.
Yeah,
Have
kill
fun.
Yeah,
it, man.
thanks guys. Yeah,
Yeah,
thanks
have a
for
great
thanks for
time.
having me, and please let me know when it's up so I can share it and everything. Yeah,
Monday,
it's a
we'll
blast
put it
talking
up,
to you
yeah,
guys.
I'll
Oh,
tag
so
you.
real quick, do you have you want to leave your handle where people can
Yes,
find you?
yeah. My for everything, it's at Steve Mazon, Steve with a V and then Mazan. So at Steve Mazon on
I'll tag it
Instagram
on
and then
everything.
Facebook, and find me on there, and that's you can find my podcast from that stuff. And
Okay.
if you're into movies, I would love your input on the movies
Totally.
I do each week. So
Awesome.
Cool,
do you
man.
tweet at all? Are you a tweeter?
a little bit. That's probably the one I'm on least, but I do.
Okay.
I just usually just podcast stuff. Yeah,
Awesome.
chime in every once in
Awesome.
a while. Try a new joke. Maybe I'll try the
Yeah.
Aquaman Panama Canal on there.
There you go.
That's going to
Give
require
it
your
a
audience
test.
to be pretty bright, though,
Right.
gotta
Well,
be-
that's exactly.
and that
Let me think this.
that might be the rub. Right?
Are you saying Twitter? What?
So, yeah, Steve, thank you so much, man. We really appreciate
Thanks.
it, man. Have
It felt like hanging out with you guys. Hopefully,
yeah,
hopefully,
absolutely,
Good
man.
time.
hopefully in
Absolutely.
person soon. That'd be fun.
For sure.
That'd be awesome. That'd be
All right,
awesome.
my
All
man. Take care of yourself.
Yeah, take care.
All right.
Have a great week,
Cheers,
brother.
guys.
Have fun out there.
Thanks. You
Peace.
too.
Okay.
All right, Reg, you want to close us out, my man?
Yeah, man. I just want to say
That
this
was a
one
great
thing, though.
one.
That was a great one. That was a great one. I want to say this, dude. How many times have we seen this reoccurring theme of like being a kid? Your parents are watching or doing something, and they go to sleep or they're watching a thing, and the kid sneaks in and he sees something that he's not supposed to see, and then boom, it's like, yo, I want to do that.
Yeah,
Right.
that's why I don't hide anything from them.
There you go. There you go. Man, it's so awesome. That was great, man. Steve really delivered big time. Big time.
Yeah,
big
he's
time.
he's
So,
great, man. He's a great guy.
and this is going to be a long one. So I want to say to everyone out there who's listening and watching, thank you so much for tuning in. We hope that you enjoyed this episode of Spitballing. We have a great time. We love doing it. We hope you do too. So
and then keep giving the feedback because Reggie likes that. And then
please keep giving the feedback.
Stuff.
Contact us. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you don't like. If you have questions, if you want us to address something or talk about something, or even if you're curious about something with us, or you want future guests on the show that you may be interested in, we might be able to reach out to make that happen. So please feel free. It's an interactive thing. That's what this world is about now. Everyone.
Yeah, and if you want to complain about Reggie's long outros, I'm all for it.
Please, yeah, that's a part of. I gotta take the good with the bad. I gotta take all of it. So with that being said, once again, thanks for listening. Please subscribe, share, and follow. And we'll see you next week. We release our podcast every Monday.
Don't forget to tell my name and your name.
I gotta get.
This is the longest outro,
dude. That's what you said last time. I gotta cover the whole shebang, man. So what I'm saying is, we release our podcast every Monday. We're almost damn near the Monday podcast. But yeah, thanks for listening. That's Sal Kalani. I'm Reggie Steele, and this is Spitballing.
Peace out.
Peace.